viable economically today and something to be viable economically tomorrow, do you think it's a viable venture to deploy dollars to find oil? Remember, we just found oil off Somalia, massive find off Somalia. No, nobody was looking there. Turkey invested money. Now it's 20 billion barrels. Kenya has, well, they found oil off Madagascar, Mozambique. They found oil. So is it worthwhile for us to actually look for oil, because there might be oil there really?
Kalu, I'll tell you that one of the reasons why the operators have not been very keen about coming into frontier acreages, especially in the Bida Basin, upper Bida Basin, by the way, the Kudu side of the Bida Basin, the former Gongola, upper Benue Trough, the Chad Basin, is because these areas actually has more commercial deposits of gas than they have
Okay.
oil. And in 1999, when SNEPCO is the offshore arm of Shell, when they agreed to the PSC 93 terms, to come into inland and check, and drill 30,000 meters and find 33 billion scoop of gas. Gas wasn't really like in the picture, because 1999 was around the same time when the train 1 to 30, if I'm not mistaken, was kicking off for
Mm.
NLNG, you know. And gas wasn't really what had always been in the picture, from when the government found crude oil in Loiberi and then the heat first oil and the joint OPEC was oil. You know, the whole thing about the commercial use of LNG and separation of gas to methane to ethane to propane to butane. So you have your propane and butane used for LPG, industrial and domestic use. Then you have LNG that is liquefied. Methane gas is liquefied into LNG or is piped as methane. It wasn't really so much of a commercial going concern as it
Okay.
is today. Okay, so the business case for drilling non-associated gas fields that has more commercial deposits of gas than they have oil, depends on the fiscal terms in the petroleum fiscal modeling that the government puts in front of the
Mm.
operators. So, for I think Qatar is number three, US is number one for LNG, um, Australia is number two, Qatar is number three. I think Algeria is somewhere around number five or number six. If I'm not mistaken, Russia should be number four. Qatar's strategy is shifted to gas. In 2019, Qatar left OPEC. Qatar doesn't do more than 1.2 million barrels of crude. But you can imagine the amount of gas Qatar has that is making it to now produce anywhere around 100 to 110 million metric tons of LNG per year, when Nigeria is struggling to do 20 million metric tons of LNG per year. Okay? The focus for Qatar has always been on non-associated gas that is drilled, gas that is trapped from drilling gas, not from drilling crude and trapping
Mm.
gas, if you understand what I mean. So the business case for gas, right, is different from the business case for
Yeah,
oil, given that Nigeria has more proven reserves of non-associated gas than it has
I
associated
see.
gas, which means typically that the gas that are proven, 210 trillion cubic feet, 53% of it is gas that you have to get by drilling for gas, not by drilling for oil and then
I
trapping
see.
gas.
I see. I got it.
Do you
I
understand what I
see.
say?
Yes, I got it. So
So I don't understand why a section of Nigeria is upset that, based on seismic data, based on well logs, based on core samples, it actually shows that you have more gas than oil. Gas is huge. Gas is the future. Gas is transition
oh,
fuel. Gas is the reason why Qatar is Qatar. Gas is the reason why Qatar wants to give Trump $400 million gift in a
uh,
jet. Gas is the reason why Qatar is promising America over half a trillion naira in investment, $500 billion in investment. Gas is the reason. I don't see why people think that gas It's less than
Okay,
oil.
so is it the same assets? Can Colomari just say, okay, we're looking for non-associated gas today. We're just going to leave oil and just do you just transit over, or you need a new equipment? Is it like just I want to eat bread, I want to eat meat pie. Is it the same thing like that, or how does it work?
So, look, for gas, I wouldn't say it's that different because when you drill for gas, you trap the gas, you have to aggregate the
Uh,
gas, um, and then from the flow stations, you send it to your what's it called now, your designated nodes to calibrate the pressure. From designated nodes, it goes to central processing facility where it's treated. It comes in as wet gas. It's treated and then it becomes lean gas, separated into methane, into ethane, propane, butane, and then your family of gases. But the major ones are your C1 to C4, C5. You know, uh, the commercial case for gas is a little bit different from the commercial case for oil. But typically, what you have, and the reason why, Kalu, NLNG, for example, one of the reasons why it has shortage of gas feedstock and is currently anywhere below 60% capacity utilization is because most of the crude oil, sorry, most of the gas used in Nigeria, say 80% of it, 85% of it, is actually associated gas they get from crude oil. Like when you drill crude, you trap gas. Nigeria has not really, the government has not developed
mm.
fiscal terms in that petroleum fiscal modeling regime that is attractive enough for the operators to invest in gas as a separate, independent commercial venture and not drill for oil and trap gas.
So still want to find out from you, right? What you're saying now, I don't think is a state secret. The NNPC knows that there's gas in Nigeria, right? People know there's gas in Nigeria. I'm just wondering why are we looking for, if you say there's no oil and is the gas proven it's there? We know it's there, correct? Why don't we just go get the gas and become a Qatar? Why can't Bao just become Qatar today?
Because we've not adjusted our. I'll say the government doesn't really have an oil and gas strategy. The focus right now is just get crude oil output to when the president talks about the budget and assumptions, he's talking about crude. You don't see him mentioning gas. Have you ever heard the president mention
Not
gas
really.
and say the target for gas, the output for gas? Because when they are doing budget, they are always on the assumption of, every 1 barrel of crude gives you 6,000 standard cubic feet of gas. So if you do 1.5 million barrels of crude, for example, let me just quickly do some numbers. 1.5 million times 6,000. That is about 9 billion scoff of gas, depending on how much you trap, how much you flare, and all of that stuff. That's 9 billion scoff of gas. Okay? If you divide 9 billion scoff by 45,000, you get anywhere around 200,000 tons of LNG, the metric tons of LNG, I think, if I'm not mistaken. You know, 9 billion scoff of gas. A portion of it goes into the domestic market, a portion of it goes into the export markets. Willing producers price path, The focus has always been on oil. And then they're like, okay, whatever comes from gas, oil as gas,
Okay.
you take it. The focus is not on gas because the government has not defined a strategy on how to make Nigeria a major gas producing country and to build diplomacy from gas. The focus has not been on gas. You can imagine when Trump is talking, he's telling you about how he wants America to become the leading LNG producer in the world. Biden talked about it too, and it was pretty much under the late end of Biden's regime that America went up to about 26 million metric. No, they went from about 14% to about 26% of the global LNG market. You know, there is a focus on not just associated gas, about 13.3 million barrels of crude drilled a day in America. There's also a focus on non-associated gas. So they have a strategy. Nigeria does not have a strategy on how to drill for gas as gas and not drill oil and then trap gas and then use the gas it gets to supply the need of gas-based industries, Gencos and all the companies, the ones doing urea and all the other companies, that is in need of gas, um, and then the export markets. It doesn't have a
So,
strategy. It's like whatever comes from drilling oil is what we'll use for our gas
so
needs.
essentially, you're saying that there might be gas in, let's just say, coal mining, for instance, but we have the laws for oil, but not the laws for gas. So,
We don't have. If you look at the National Gas Master Plan, Kalu, so I'll tell you what. The interesting thing. I was just speaking to someone today about the gas master plan and the design, the diagram, the design for gas pipes in Nigeria. And we're talking about the drawings for gas. You have AKK, you have the pipe from Ajaokuta going to Gwagwalada, from Gwagwalada to Zaria, from Zaria to Funtua in Katsina, then it's on its way to Gasu. And I was mentioning that, look, the Northeast does not actually have a design for gas pipe. Okay, considering that the Northeast has a lot of gas, like underground, it has a lot of gas
this
underground
is
that
this
has
is
not
interesting.
been that is not coming out. Yes, it doesn't have
Okay, so,
so
so let's go to
AKK
the.
AKK typically runs from north central to the northwest to Gausu, and I was wondering why, when the Ministry of Petroleum, first designed the AKK plan, it didn't add Northeast in it. So here's what we discovered. We discovered that there was actually a plan from the Ministry of Petroleum to take, and the gas gathering for this AKK actually it mostly comes from Niger Delta. Okay, it comes from your northern Obigbo to your Obi Tori link, Obibo, to a section of it to Abia to Enugu. From Enugu, it goes to Ajaokuta. It crosses the river Niger to Ajaokuta. That's 1.8 kilometers they've not been able to cross until now. They've spent a
Okay,
lot of
okay,
money
okay,
on
I don't want
it.
to. So I want us to get AKK, right? But I just want to nail down for just. Sorry, but I'm getting a lot of DM just to nail down what you're saying, right? So you are saying that the viability for the North is more in terms of gas, not crude oil.
Not
Just
crude
nail
oil.
that down. Okay. So that goes to my question, i.e., the viability, the long-term viability of looking for gas in the north. Sorry, of looking for crude oil in the north. Why can't they just change that to gas? Is it? I mean, why are we looking for crude oil when, like you said, there's proven gas already? Apart from the laws, is there anything stopping us from getting this gas tomorrow?
Carlo, the reason is because the operators want field that has more crude oil than
Who
gas.
is the operator? That's the
If you're
foreign
going to
guys, or like
the 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 IOCs will not even touch the frontier basins. They will not touch it. They will not touch it with a 6 foot pole. Especially considering now that they've all divested. Total has divested to Chapal, Mobil to
But
Seplat,
Kevin, we
Shell
know
to
why they left the Niger
Renaissance.
Delta, but the Northwest, does this still have the same issues with Niger Delta? Why won't they touch it?
Well, Kalu, security is a factor, is a major factor. I mean, look at the whole issues in Nigeria. Security is a major factor. Security is a factor for them in Niger Delta. Security is a major
Mm.
factor in the Northwest. But more important, when I was explaining earlier, I talked about reservoir modeling. Reservoir modeling is what you do from your seismic data, the logs you get from drilling your exploratory wells, and your core samples. Okay? Your reservoir modeling will give you what you call your recovery ratio. Your recovery ratio is derived from your enterprise value divided by your 2P reserves. Your
Okay.
recovery, that reservoir modeling will give you that estimate. And In oil and gas, when they are doing reservoir modeling, they usually have recovery ratio at oil must not be less than 20 as a factor, gas must not be less than 80 as a factor. These are unemotional decisions. These are decisions based on hard numbers.
Mm.
If based on an exploratory well, right, they've done reservoir modeling and it doesn't show that recovery factor shows that there's commercial viability in investing in such a project because it's very expensive to drill and to do field development. It's very expensive.
Okay.
Okay, it's very expensive. They are not going to come in. So, if, for example, Frontier Investment Services is deploying a section of the Frontier Basin Exploration Fund, which is 30% of profit oil based on the PIA, right, into developing, going into these basins to see if there's oil, um, and then when it becomes a commercial concern, they decide and say, okay, they want to give it as an FTSA to a company, or they want to bring it under NEPL, and do service contracts. Uh, you know, the question is why are the numbers not showing that it's a commercial going concern and they've hit first oil and there's oil coming out of the ground? It's because they've not found commercial quantities of crude oil that makes a good business case for viability. It's as
So
simple
there's
as
I
that.
read something I heard that there's probable reserves, there is viable reserve that
There is proven
uh-huh.
reserves, there is probable reserves, then there is possible reserves.
So in this
So you
case,
have your
yeah,
2P
go ahead.
and your 3P.
Uh-huh.
You have your 2P and your 3P. Your 2P is your proven and probable. Your 3P is your proven, probable, and possible
Uh-huh.
reserves.
So in this case, there's a possible chance there's oil, but it's not a proven chance that the oil there is a commercial enough to attract the foreign investment that will then make that place produce oil for export. That's what I'm hearing.
Kalu, possible has not moved to proven.
Simple as so
Simple.
possible has not to prove it. That's the okay. What did so and if they did gas today because you're saying they can't do gas today because the laws are not yet written, so an investor will not come. Is that what I'm hearing you say? Even the NNPC, Nigerian Gas Company, can't move in there even without the laws. The Nigerian Gas Company.
First, the Nigerian government has to decide its strategy. Like I said earlier, the Nigerian government does not have a strategy for gas. If you look at the National Gas Master Plan, document, in my opinion, is empty. It's not
Okay,
detailed.
so this is
Okay?
crazy. Okay, so why is the
It's
NNPC?
empty. Kalu, and I'll tell you why I said it's empty. I gave an example. Qatar left OPEC in 2019. Qatar does not produce more than 1.2 million barrels of crude. Typically, 1.2 million barrels of crude will give you about 7.2 billion scoff of gas, standard cubic feet of gas on a
Yeah.
daily basis. That is maybe twice of what NLNG needs on a daily basis today to be able to achieve 22 million metric tons per year. That's like twice. Okay? But NLNG is like a sixth of the size of Qatar LNG. NLNG is a sixth in terms of their output. Sixth. So divide 100 by 6. NLNG is a sixth of Qatar LNG.
Mm.
Yeah? So if Qatar is doing 300,000 barrels less than Nigeria is doing in crude oil, but it's producing more non-associated gas, which is gas you get from drilling for gas
Yeah.
and not for oil or trapping gas. How come Qatar LNG is 6 times bigger than NLNG?
Mm. They've invested more.
Yeah, are you seeing my
Yeah.
point?
Yeah, I see where you're going. But again, we had the NNPC guy is not a new guy to the industry. He knows what you're saying, but he's saying he wants to pursue oil, not gas.
Well, Ojulari started his career in the 90s. He's been in the business for a little more than 30 years. I have respect for him. But I will say very respectfully to him that considering that his former employer, left the upper Benue Trade, Gongola Basin, drilled 30,000 meters, found 30 billion scoop of gas in one well, and abandoned it and left because number one, gas was not a commercial going concern as at then, but did not bother to explore further. it's a good reason for him. And considering also what I've explained about reservoir modeling from exploratory drilling, and the fact that it's not really moved to appraisal drilling. Because if you do exploratory drilling and you come out with your reservoir models and you get your what we call your estimated ultimate recovery. Estimated ultimate recovery is the total amount of crude. So for example, just look at even before Shell started drilling for exploratory drilling. Okay, they've appointed Schlumberger, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's Schlumberger they gave that. Is that Schlumberger or Saipem? I've forgotten the name of the company, but they gave two companies contract for Bonga North. Before they started exploratory drilling on Bonga North, uh, before Shell is able to get your the logs from drilling wells, they're going to drill 8 wells for what crude, 8 wells for water. They'll do a tieback, which means for the 8 different wells, they will tie um, they'll use pipes, tie the pipes to one riser and not do FPSO for each well. Connect to one riser and then connect to FPSO. It's like a cost saving strategy. Okay, within a 100-meter radius, the distance within which the wells in deep water will be located. Okay, before Shell, before their EPC contractors have come in to start exploratory drilling, Shell has already come out to tell you that they've done their numbers, they've done their gotten their recovery factor, and the estimated ultimate recovery for Bonga North is 300 million barrels over a 10-year period from 2030 to 2040. They've given you the numbers already. And they've said that they've achieved what they call a hurdle rate. And the hurdle rate, is above industry average, which means that it's a
Mm.
green light. They commissioned FID based on that. In fact, it was based on the fact that they got a internal rate of return, a hurdle rate that is above
Mm.
market average, that the that they commissioned the green light and the FID the project. If Shell and its partners have already given you the estimated ultimate recovery before drilling the first exploratory well, tell me how come? Tell me, Kalu, how come for the frontier basins in Nigeria, specifically the one in Bauchi, NNPC and its contractors have not been able to go to give you the estimated ultimate recovery or tell you how much reserves are there. So, if, for example, now they are claiming that, okay, we started exploratory drilling, well, yeah, based on the seismic data you've recovered, based on the logs from drilling the well, based on the samples you've gotten from drilling, you've even gone a step further than Shell because Shell has not even done all this. And they've given you the total amount of crude they're expecting over a 10-year period. Why are you still not able to give us the estimated ultimate recovery?
Mm.
These are like anybody on this space who is an oil and gas person, upstream, exploration and production, E&P, that knows his onions should attest to every single thing I've said. And if I am saying nonsense, when it starts question and answer session, of course, the floor is open.
Okay, let me just be the final one, final pushback. The former press secretary to the Mr. President Buhari, Bashir, he told me that they will need more refineries in the north because this is his words, the oil, they're going to find more oil pretty soon. And I also had a back and forth with a gentleman as well. And so essentially they are saying that, how can I put this? If the Oyibos will not come because for them they are easily scared away. When we wanted to do steel, they did not come till we paid them. Whenever you call the Oyibos, they look at the money side of it. I'm just saying, sir, the NNPC doesn't have that issue. They would come and develop what is not developable today, but tomorrow it becomes commercially. So are you saying that even if because of patriotism that we would even take a marginal loss? Are you saying to even go to the north and develop that gas for the sake of Nigeria? It is not even if we don't break even, but we just lose maybe 10%. It's not a viable venture. It's just to get you on record that it's not even something we should pursue EBITDA wise, break even wise, IRR wise. Just to be clear, that's what you're saying.
Carlo, if the government had a gas strategy, it will incentivize the development of non-associated gas fields in the north, which is gas that is produced independently without drilling oil and trapping gas. Okay, for example, If you had a gas strategy and you focus on NAG, there will not be a need to aggregate gas from the Niger Delta all the way to the north. There won't be a need because you can easily use the gas that you get from
Mm.
Bauchi to feed to AKK. You can also use the gas you get from the Chad Basin in Borno and feed down into any phase two of
Mm.
AKK that will go from maybe from Tua or Kano or Zaria and run all the way Bauchi through Gombe to Adamawa and then Meduguri
Okay.
with PMRS in each state. Okay? And then you can also, basically like extend that pipe, that AKK pipe through TNGP, Transnational Gas Pipeline, depending on diplomatic situation between Nigeria and Nigeria Republic, all the way to Algeria. But we don't have a gas strategy.
Amazing.
Our focus is on oil. So there isn't a case of, okay, even if the north has more gold, raw gold, than every other part of Nigeria, Sokoto in Zamfara, in some parts of Nasarawa, I even hear rumors that there's gold in some parts of Abuja, and Plateau. Why have we not been able to develop like a solid minerals regulatory framework that is as sophisticated as what you have for oil and gas? So you have a situation where the south is coming with oil and gas, the north is coming with gold. And the north has commercial deposits of gas. The gas it produces
Mm.
feeds into the domestic gas delivery obligations, and then it feeds into an export framework. Kalu, you can't make commercial decisions based on patriotism.
Okay.
If the numbers don't make sense, they don't make sense. There's no tribe and religion inside.
Okay. All right. Let's move, Kevin, quickly to the AKK. AKK is the pipeline going south, south, southeast, Ajaokuta, Kano, Kaduna. The NNPC CEO said it's going to be a focus. Where are we? What do we need to do? Is it a question of no money or no technical ability? If you could take it from there.
So, AKK was initially designed by the Ministry of Petroleum. The Ministry of Petroleum came out with the engineering design for AKK. Abuja, Kaduna, Kano, and typically it's 614 kilometers running from Ajaokuta, Abuja, Kaduna, Kano. 614 kilometers. Typically, globally, Kalu, the price of developing 1 kilometer of gas pipeline, because they use carbon steel pipes, ranges from $650,000 to about $1.5 million. The Russians and the Chinese, they built Gazprom. I think Gazprom partnered with this Sinop, maybe Sinop or Sinopec or CNPC. I've forgotten the particular state-owned enterprise in China that had that deal with Gazprom. They built a 4,800, 4,900 kilometer export pipeline from Russia that they call the Power of Siberia,
Oh.
all the way through Mongolia. Mongolia is the right of way to China. They built an export pipeline. You know how difficult that terrain is, Kalu. It's a very difficult terrain. They built an export pipeline, and the average cost per kilometer was anywhere between 1.2 and 1.5 million dollars per kilometer. Kalu, in Nigeria, the cost per kilometer of AKK, which is a project within Nigeria, is $3.2 million per kilometer.
Hey. We're up to bike again now.
So that is basically $2 billion divided by 614 kilometers. Basic
Wow.
numbers. $2 billion divided by 614 kilometers. $3.2 million per kilometer.
Hmm. Okay. So that's why the Chinese left. The Chinese left because they said the pricing, it was over
They've
bloated.
they've done this project. They've done this project. They've done it around the world. It doesn't make sense. In fact, the Chinese built a pipe 1,950 kilometers from their garden fields in Niger Republic. They built it all the way to Benin, to Seme in Benin Republic. Go and meet the Chinese to tell you how much it costs for them to build 1 kilometer of that 1,950. By the way, Kalu, 1,950 is nearly 3 times, or is even more than 3 times 614 kilometers. Let the Chinese tell you how much it costs them per kilometer to build that pipeline from Agaden Fields to Semen in Benin
And they
Republic.
went round. They didn't go Bed's Eye. They went
They
round.
didn't go through
They didn't
Nigeria.
go through
They
Nigeria. They
went
went
round.
round through Benin. So it was
They went
longer.
round. It was longer. They went round. So how so it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense that they commission a project for $3.2 million, which is more than 100% of what it costs to build pipes anywhere in the world. Export pipes, by the way.
Okay.
Okay? And then they'll come back to you and tell you that, oh, they want to do contract variation costs because the money is not enough.
Okay. So first of all, it was overpriced. Then the NNPC took over the contract. Mele said they've taken over. He had paid 1.1 billion to, I think it was Oil Serve and somebody else that is doing the contract, the piping now. So where are we now? Last time you were here, you said they couldn't cross the river Benue or something like that. Where are we now on AKK? I also saw a report. They said 72% complete.
So the River Niger crossing is from Enugu to Ajaokuta. Because if you check the map, Carlo, you know that Enugu, is it just connects immediately to on one side to Benue and then on the other side to Kogi. Yeah. And that River Niger connects it directly to Kogi to Ajaokuta. So where they are now is from Enugu to Ajaokuta. And that pipe is 1.8 kilometers across River Niger. That pipe has to cross River Niger. Okay? And that is for gas gathering because that is the gas that you're gathering to the confluence center, which is Ajaokuta, that takes the gas from the starting point. Ajaokuta is the feed for the confluence point. That's one side of the problem. The other side of the problem, um, Ajaokuta to Abuja is done. Kanu to Funtua, I think, is ongoing. Sorry, Zaria to Kanu, I think they've almost completed it. Where they are now is between Abuja and Zaria.
That's what's
Then
left.
phase
That's
that's what's left. That's what's left. Then phase two will be from Kanu, from Zaria to Funtua, then to Gausu.
so they've almost done it then.
That's that's where they are now. But the problem is, even if you cross River Niger at an inflated cost, very inflated, more than 100%, and then you finish Abuja to Zaria, how are you going to feed the pipe, gather the gas to the confluence point, and feed that pipe to ensure that the pressure is high and that there is gas for offtake? Because the gas, one side of it on that OB3 channel, is coming from River State, collect from Abia, go through Enugu, and then take to the confluence center in Ajaokuta and
Mhm.
Kogi State. Where's the gas?
So the gas we have on call, the gas we had that I know is going from south through the West African gas pipeline. What about that gas?
No, that is Escravos. That is Chevron. Mostly runs that line. That is completely separate. That's not on the route
Okay,
to
the one that
AKK.
powers Geregu and the rest, that's Chevron. Is that what you say?
No,
Okay, let me pull up my
the
map.
one that powers Geregu, the one from Escravos, Chevron. You know, so they are different pipes. I don't want to confuse our
So
listeners, but they are different
so
pipes.
now the
Okay,
red.
there's a pipe.
Go for it.
There's a pipe that connects from Escravos and that feeds the pipe that feeds Dangote, Shell, Chevron, yeah, pipe that feeds the Dangote refinery for urea, that feeds a lot of all those companies, Axela and them that run distribution pipes. Axela has TNGL, I think. if I'm not mistaken, about 13 kilometers TNGL pipe that distributes gas to off-takers in Ogun State, in Lagos, and then that main trunk line also forms the export framework to you to export gas into what they call the West African Gas Pipeline Company, WACPICO, that runs all the way through Benin Republic, Togo to Ghana, and then likes and supplies Ghana with the gas it uses for electricity. So, and NNPC owns about 27.9% of WACPICO. Well, I don't see their financials on their balance sheets. So but there are different pipes. There is OB3. There are different pipes that extends mostly from Delta State, from River State. I think very soon there's going to be a pipe that will go from Bielsa to the southwest.
Okay,
You know,
I just shared it. I just shared the photo now from Petroleum Economist about gas pipelines in Nigeria. I don't know if you can see it. I just shared it now. I just put it on that latest share now. I don't know if you can. If we can look at that. Can you see it?
yeah, I can see it.
So is that pipe accurate? Because if you look at it, it's saying that, that there's something going from maybe Benin or Escravos all the way to Ajaokuta. It's in red, so it just stops there. So is this map accurate?
Yes, yes. So that is OB3.
It goes to Ajaokuta.
That is one area of the feed, yes, that feeds Ajaokuta. But the other leg of the feed is, so you look at the dotted red
Yeah.
lines. Are you seeing the dotted red
Yes.
lines? You notice it says in the legend, it says gas pipeline planned and
Yeah.
proposed. The dotted red line, the shorter one, is your OB3 that connects from River State, Northern
Uh,
Obigo, through
uh.
Umaya to Enugu. And that is the one that is crossing River Niger to Ajaokuta that I've been
Is
explaining.
that the one?
The shorter dotted
That's
red line.
AKK. That dotted red line to Enugu to Ajaokuta. That's the AKK.
No, no. AKK starts from Ajaokuta.
Okay. Oh, I
The
see what you're saying.
gathering
Okay.
of that gas that will feed Ajaokuta is what you have Benin, Obitore, one, going to Ajaokuta. If you look at the legend, the gas pipeline from Benin says gas pipeline, which means there's an already existing gas
Yeah.
pipeline. Okay? But Benin will not be able to feed Ajaokuta with all the feedstock that he needs. So you see what they have, gas pipeline planned,
Yeah.
proposed, dotted red
Yeah.
lines. The shorter one is what you have coming from Port Harcourt, Ubigo, to Umaya, to
Mm.
Enugu. And then from Enugu, you cross the River Niger. That dotted line that goes
Uh.
left, red dotted line that goes left, is where we are right now with the 1.8 kilometer pipe that cannot cross River Niger.
Okay. Without that, we can't get AKK.
You can't get AKK
Interesting.
because there will be no gas to feed, there will be not enough gas to feed AKK. The second one, which is the longer one, is what I was explaining earlier about the northeast not having any planned gas pipeline that comes from Port Harcourt to Umahia to Enugu and then goes all the way to Makodi. From Makodi, it goes to Jalingo in Taraba and then it goes to Biu in Borno State. So Jalingo, you see Jalingo,
Yeah.
you see the dots, Jalingo, and then to your right
Yeah.
you see Yola, yeah,
Yeah.
and then it goes to Biu in Borno State,
And it's going to
and then from Biu it connects back to Bauchi,
oil.
and then
Yeah.
back to Kano.
Oil. Yeah.
Are you seeing it? And then from Kano it connects out to
Oh.
TNGP, transnational gas pipeline through Niger Republic
Yeah.
to
See it.
Algeria.
I see it.
Are
Yep.
you
I
seeing
see
it?
it.
So what I'm explaining to you, Kalu, I'm saying to you that listen, if we create a fiscal framework in the petroleum fiscal regime for gas, non-associated gas fields, which is gas that you get from drilling for gas, not gas that you get from trapping
Crude oil. Yeah.
gas when you drill crude oil.
Mm.
You can connect those gas fields to the PMRS in Butte from Maiduguri, from the Chad Basin in Borno State, connect it to Biu. Connect the one in Bauchi, Komani. You can connect Komani to this gas pipeline that will run through Bauchi, which is proposed.
Hmm.
Are you with
Yeah,
me?
I'm looking at it.
Eh?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
If you explore, if you explore the Bida Basin, the upper Bida Basin, which is your Kudu, you can connect that gas field in Bida Basin to AKK to feed it with more gas.
Hmm. Okay.
Kalu, are you with
Now,
me?
actually, I'm looking at it.
You
Yeah,
can connect the one in Lafia. You can either connect it to AKK or you connect it to phase two of AKK, which is the proposed.
yeah,
Are you
yep,
seeing it?
I see it. So,
I don't know if everyone who is listening on this call is actually watching this map and see as how we're
yeah,
explaining this thing.
it's shared it's shared on the trade. If you go to the latest last tweet I posted, that's what we're looking at. So I think Ken, can you see it? Ken, you can see it, right? Ken is the only speaker here. Ken, you can see the map. Just
Yeah, I can see the map. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's there. And it's an interesting map because again, since I have you here, Kevin, if you look at the entire southeast, there's no gas infrastructure there. There are no pipelines there.
Carl, this is the reason why I said, listen, without gas, you can't generate electricity because 75% of the gencos in Nigeria, there are about 26 gencos. 19 of them are thermal based plants, which means they run on gas. I think you have two steamed gas plants. Then you have about maybe five hydro, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe four or five hydro, if I'm not mistaken. Someone should
KNG
correct me.
one, two, three. Then what's it? There's three. It's three
Okay, third.
because
So you have 26 gencos in Nigeria. 75% of them, 75 to 80%, they run on gas. So if, for example, the entire southeast and the entire northeast, they don't have a gas pipeline or a proposed gas pipeline, right? How do you expect their gencos to generate electricity? Somebody was mentioning the other day that, you can fall back on Abia and then build transmission lines. I said in 2025, when power has come from exclusive to concurrent legislative lists, and NEC has given the states and the regions the power to run the show, you want to build gas power thermal plants in Abia State and then run transmission lines across the southeast. It doesn't make any sense. And if you look at the NEC, their data, you see that even if the southeast has one of the highest level of adoption for prepaid metering and lowest impairment in terms of cost recoveries, they have some of the lowest output for electricity generation in Nigeria. And you can easily see the parallel to the lack of
gas pipelines.
gas pipeline running through the southeast.
Okay, so
If you don't have a gas pipeline, an investor will not come in and invest money to build a generating company, a thermal plant to generate electricity. First thing, they will not come in. Why? Because there's no gas pipeline. What do you want them to
okay,
use? Do you want them to truck LNG and then
okay.
regasify it and then generate
And
electricity?
Kevin,
At what
since
cost?
we're here, I want to give the phone over to the guys I want to speak, right? Since you are here,
Okay.
why is power so expensive? Can you explain to me? I saw a report where a hospital spent 20 million naira in 3 months. Togo doesn't, there's no company in Togo that can afford 20 million naira in 3 months for power. So why is power in Nigeria expensive? We have gas, we have oil. Why is it expensive? If you could just maybe layman, why?
Kalu, those people are on estimated billing.
Yeah, but
Those people,
20
the
million.
hospital,
Don't
they're on estimated billing. There's no way they will use prepaid meter that they will spend 20 million in. Is it 3 months
Three
or
months,
how
that's the
long? Three
report. Three
weeks.
months, 3 months, 3 weeks.
There's
Yeah.
there, there's no way they use prepaid meter that will spend 20 million in 3 weeks. It's not
Aso
possible.
Rock said they got a
What are they
bill of
using?
47 million or so. You saw that, right? Aso Rock, that they got a bill.
Is it 47 billion or
Even
47
if it's
million?
47 million. I mean, why is it so expensive?
Meanwhile, in the appropriation document for 2025, it shows that what was actually apportioned for paying of electricity bill in 2025 from State House, is actually 311 million naira. 311 million. That's the appropriation.
Okay, but
So that 47 billion naira figure was a random. I don't know where that came from.
but Kevin, to the question, why is it expensive? Because even if it's for 3 months or 6 months, 20 something million, like the UCH in Ibadan is short. They don't have power because they couldn't pay some crazy bill. Why is it expensive? Is it why? Is it
Number one, is postpaid. It's not prepaid.
that's
If you run through a meter, it will be even on band A. Somebody will not just come. Somebody cannot just come and write a crazy bill for you and say, okay, sorry, you have a 6-bedroom duplex. Your house is very big. You have 10 ACs. You drive 4 cars. Your house is very fine. Your bill is 1 million naira every month.
so those guys don't know that if you put them a meter, their price would fall. That the university this UCH doesn't know this. That if they just
Carlo, there's no way you spend 20 million for 3 weeks at a hospital. It's not possible. I don't know the kind of equipment they use at the hospital, but it's not possible to spend 20 million naira
I'm
in
going
three
to look
weeks
for. I'm
on
going to look.
prepaid data.
I don't think it was. I
It's
don't,
not.
3 months or three
But
weeks.
but but
Let me
but,
for the
but let me
story.
let me drill into um, the power sector, because oil and gas is also related to power, because most of the feedstock used for generating electricity is from gas. Okay, so first of all, gas is not properly priced to the gencos in Nigeria. So Nigeria's gas pricing falls under what they call the T&T curve. Trinidad and Tobago, Nigeria models its gas pricing along 3 countries: Trinidad and Tobago, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. You know, and the pricing of gas in Nigeria is a third of the pricing of gas in these countries that they model the gas price after. So, for example, you see something like under delivery gas, domestic delivery gas obligation, sections 108 of the PIA, and that says a certain portion of gas that is trapped or drilled or comes to surface is supposed to be supplied to the domestic market, compulsory by the government. Government has a national reference code that places a cap on the domestic base price of gas to gas-based industries in Nigeria. Okay, so to Gencos, I think it's about $2.18, if I'm not mistaken. But that price is not aligned to what they call export parity curve. The export parity curve is taking into cognizance that the same gas you're pricing at $2.18 under the export market framework goes to about $6 to $8, $9.
Yeah.
Yeah, under the export framework, Willing Price Producers Price, they call it WPPP. So, if, for example, you're telling the operators that because the government has placed a cap, it doesn't want electricity prices to go significantly up because the gas prices are up, Gencos will increase the price for which they deliver load to the market operator. Market operator will increase the bill of the discos. The operators are looking at it and saying, okay, so, and we have to invest in infrastructure. Okay. So we'd rather just reinject the gas or flare it. If you flare it, you pay fines. Yeah. Then because the business case for trapping the gas and then aggregating the gas to flow stations. From flow stations, it goes to designated nodes where they calibrate pressure. Then it goes to central processing facilities where, as wet gas, is treated and separated into C1 to C4 and the family of gases. All these processes involves infrastructure. If the commercial case for going through these processes does not place their return on investment to be higher than their cost, they will flare the gas and pay penalties to NUPRC.
Yeah. Oh god.
That is one leg of the problem for the electricity industry. That is upstream. Now let me come to the mid and downstream. So the Gencos, for you to generate 1 megawatt of power, it costs you about $1.5 million. Okay?
1 megawatt,
Generate power.
1.5.
One, 1 megawatt costs you around $1.5 million.
Okay.
Yeah? You generate power. TCN does not have the transmission infrastructure to transmit all the power you've generated. Number one problem. So you generate 6,000 megawatts, TCN is transmitting 4,002 or 4,005 or 4,004. There's a loss because the infrastructure to transmit it is not available. So the Gencos are saying to themselves, hey, there's no need now. Let's just stay there and stay with the business we're doing. Number two problem. Number three, market operator gets the load that they're able to transmit because, based on the infrastructure they have. And then about 55% of the market does not have prepaid meters. Number one, which means that they are on underestimated billing, electricity theft. Some part of the market, even on prepaid meters, are stealing power. They will bypass the meters, and they are losing. The losses are coming to the disco. Those are commercial losses. Technical losses, infrastructure issues. This one that got damaged, this one, power went off, lost to the disco, and all of that stuff. Because there isn't sufficient coordination, and infrastructure. So the discos are telling themselves, okay, your market operator is giving 4,400 megawatts of 6,000 to the discos. The rule says that we have to put up like a minimum payment guarantee or a bank guarantee, a BG, with the market operator to ensure that the load that they say they are taking, they've already provided the revenue assurance for the Gencos. Some discos are not able to put market minimum payment guarantee because they are not liquid. They are owing market operator. Market operator is owing the Genco because you can't put up minimum payment guarantee. There's no BG to cash on. And now you have 4.2 trillion naira of debt from unpaid invoices, what they call final settlement statements, to the Gencos, right? The Gencos don't have money to pay for gas. But the only thing protecting that gas supply from going off is that the government of Nigeria did like an arrangement where the World Bank, World Bank is divided into two. You have the International Development Association, then you have the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD. The IDA came in and provided what they call a partial risk guarantee, to the gas aggregators and say, listen, we're going to provide a partial guarantee that on the gas that you're delivering to the Gencos in Nigeria, if they are not able to pay because of all this inefficiency in the system, you have MBET there. MBET is providing subsidies to the market. I'll come to that. If they are not able to, pay because of all these problems, and now you have 4.2 trillion naira of unpaid invoices, we're providing a partial risk, a bank guarantee that you will get some parts of your money back, most parts of it back. So don't turn off the supply of gas to the Gencos. That's why, there's still up NEPA. At least people are still seeing light and it's going off. So electricity prices, for band B to D or B to E, I don't know what the bands are anywhere between 3 and 7 cents per kilowatt. If I'm wrong, the experts here will correct me. The prices are not tenable because of the devaluation of the naira. Okay? Because gas is priced in dollars. A lot of the equipment and infrastructure, maintenance, C-check maintenance, and the expenses of these Gencos are mostly in dollars. So they usually do their numbers in dollars.
Okay.
Because of the devaluation, the cost of electricity per kilowatt is not tenable.
So
And that is now compounded by the fact that not only do you have half of your consumers on postpaid billing with no revenue assurance.
Mm.
Yeah.
You,
You also have you also have the lack of liquidity and fluidity in the value chain to ensure that there's revenue assurance and the Gencos are able to pay the gas people to keep the supply and the whole chain going. It looks complicated, you know, but these are the issues. This is the reason why, Kalu, anytime this issue of electricity comes up, I usually don't like, you know, say, oh, the minister is this, the minister is that, because I have a little understanding of how the system works. And I know that the problems in the power sector in Nigeria are beyond the minister. I'm not holding brief for the minister. I've never met him in person, you know. I'm not holding brief for him. I'm just saying that it's complicated. And solving it, and one of the reasons why, they did the band A was because they wanted to partition a section of consumers who they believe could afford it, even if they've not lived up to the assurance of what they promised those consumers, to see how they can reduce the impairments from the that they have in the invoices that are due to the market operator.
I, I,
But of course,
I hear you, Kevin.
I don't want to get into the politics
No,
of
no, I hear
electricity
you.
prices
Just,
because
just,
it's a
just.
slippery
I'm going to
slope.
hand over to folks to speak now because I think I've hogged the mic a lot. But just the paper I told you about, the actual bill was 20 million for 3 hours. So they pay million every month, and they only got 3 hours of power. 20 million.
Carlo, that is shocking. It's shocking.
Pun intended, yeah. I mean, it's
And
just too expensive. I hear you. So I think what I took from what you explained was that it's tied to the dollar. So once it's tied to the dollar, I see that just can't afford anything dollar based. So I think that makes sense for me. But let me throw it with floor open, Kevin. I think you've spoken a lot. We've talked about the oil reserves in the frontier side. In summary, you're saying there's oil there, but it's not commercially viable. If it was, we'd have seen it by now. That's your point. On AKK, you've given me a lot of hope that they've done a lot in terms of the pipeline, but you're talking about the aggregation of the gas. That has not happened. So they might have the pipes laid, but don't have any gas infrastructure to aggregate that gas, we'll cool it or whatever, and then pipe it. So we're still really some 2% pipe laying completion, not at the actual project itself done. I've got Ken, I've got Ewama, so I've got Teke, all want to speak. Let's go straight to Ken. Ken, thanks for waiting so long. I appreciate that. Kevin is here. Please go for it, sir.
Thank you so much, Carlo. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Kelvin. I mean, to be honest, Carlo, you have the best person. I've just been nodding my head since while he was talking, and a lot of things that he has said is just spot on. And what I would just like to talk about is the AKK pipeline, because I was really interested in that project when it was announced, when the contract was assigned to only serve to start the construction, and not just about that pipeline, the fact that we can finally have, I would say, a gas network, some sort that would be integrated across the country, where to another part. But also, I read that the plan was this the Siemens deal. The Siemens is a long document, well written document. I know it was written by Siemens personnel, because of the structure of the document and the plans. The way they phased it, phase one, phase two, and phase three, and what they plan to achieve. I was really hopeful that Buhari would get it to work, because of how how the plans would tie to the AKK pipeline. But the truth of the matter is, today, yes, Kevin has talked about the fact that, because one question I've always asked is the fields that will serve this pipeline, where are they? At least you should have those projects happening in parallel. So the AKK pipeline is going on, and we should be hearing of FIDs towards, projects, fields development that will feed this pipeline. So we should have
construction of these facilities right now. But Kevin has been spot on. Where is it going to come from? Where is the gas really going to come from if today AKK pipeline is ready? The answer is we don't know. We don't know how we are going to feed this pipeline. And then the other thing, let's even say the pipeline is ready, the gas is ready. Now there's a plan to actually have about 2,000 megawatts thermal plants in Abuja and also in Kaduna, and it's all tied to this AKK pipeline. We've not heard anything about those power plants yet, as of today. No groundbreaking ceremony, nothing. So you telling me now what you are saying right now is the pipeline is ready, the gas is ready. So where do we have the offtake? What what's going to happen to the offtake in terms of utilization
But
of
he's saying the pipes are not ready and the gas, whatever
yeah,
collating is not ready.
I know. I'm just reinforcing it that okay, let's say the pipe is ready, this is ready.
So I should mention to you, Ken, that NNPC Gas and Power Limited has a project, an IPP in Gwagwalada. As a matter of fact, I'm privy to details about a shipment of equipment that arrived through Shimek. Shimek is a Chinese company. Um, Last year, July,
Hmm.
specifically July, sometime around the 20th of July last year. And I've always said that one very veritable arm of NNPC Group that I see prospects for, if it's properly managed and they have a good head managing it as EVP and then the team, is gas and power.
Hmm.
Because NNPC can take advantage of its domestic, um, you know, area, one of which is gas, as a means to feed to any IPP built around Nigeria. Of course, there'll be issues around competition and fair pricing and all of that stuff. To be sure that it's not, you know, trying to take a leg up over its competitors. Based on how the flow is, because you have horizontal structures, you have vertical structures. Horizontal structure is where everybody who is in that supply chain has to go through NJC. Vertical is when NJC is excluded from it. You know, so Shimek is actually going to build an IPP as a contractor for NNPC Gas and Power, and that IPP most likely, if they apply for a Genco license from NEC and they get it, or they decide to sign a PPA with a Genco, and then the Genco sells the power, and then they know how to structure the commercial agreements. So that is just on your question about offtake. That's the reason why I stepped in. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, I mean, so
No, no, yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So Ken, if you want us to, are you okay?
No. I'm okay. It's quite interesting to hear about this. This IPP.
Yeah.
I've not seen it in the news. I've not seen it anywhere. If it's something that is not being made public and all that because of the contractor you've mentioned now, the people involved, that can be understood. But from that document, from the Siemens document that was published, then Siemens was supposed to construct, about I think 1,800 megawatts in Abuja and another one in Kano, all tied to the AKK for offtake. And also the plan also then was to also feed other IPP, other power plants, also for domestic use and all that. And the idea is also to stop trucking, or I would say limit trucking, or of compressed natural gas all the way from the Niger Delta all the way down to the north central, most especially Abuja, Kano, and Kaduna. But looking at all that, what I would like to conclude on is with regards to our strategy towards gas. We used to have a gas master plan, but that gas master plan is not being I don't I really don't know how to put it. but it's not being implemented the way it's supposed to, because Nigeria is actually a gas country. We have so many fields in the Niger Delta that, in those days, in the 60s, in the 50s, 70s, when they discover gas fields, they just plug the well and leave, because of the business case of developing gas fields then. But
Gotcha.
what we have right now is that some of those fields are being revisited. Like, I know Shell is trying to develop the HA and the HB fields right now, which is a field that was discovered in the 60s. So they just basically plugged it and they left it because it was gas. Then
Yeah,
then people wanted
that
oil, not
field
gas.
that field is attached to Sunlink, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I
Yes,
think they have a
yes,
JV
because
with
because
Sunlink.
because there is the use.
Sunlink owns about 40% of that field.
Exactly. And then we are even talking about train 7 in the NLNG. Train 7 in the NLNG.
Train 7, by the way, needs 1 trillion scoop of gas per year.
But train 1 to 6, we are not doing up to 60% utilization up to today.
Yeah.
We are
All
not
right.
doing we are not utilizing NLNG 100% even up to today. But we are still doing train 7, and train 7 is supposed to have gas fields that will feed it. And then now we are having problem with the AKK pipeline. So, I mean, the Minister of State for Petroleum needs to really sit down and let's have a strategy towards gas, because Nigeria is a gas country. We can use it to our advantage. Thank
Gotcha.
you. Let me not hold the mic too
All
much.
right,
Thank you.
Ken, I appreciate that. Let's get Vese.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah, good evening. Yes, thanks very much for this space. Let me get straight to my questions. It's been a very rich space. I'm going to re-listen, like, so I can take. I think Kelvin should even like put out a course on a macro understanding of Nigeria's oil and gas industry. Now, my first question, I'm from Delta State. Um, And I've heard a lot about how gas pipelines are emanating from Delta to West Africa and like to various, places. What of, I'm now talking about state utilization of gas within Delta. What are the
The
possibilities?
states don't have control. The states don't have control over it.
Yeah, yeah, I understand.
So NNPC has
Okay,
an arm. No, no, hold on,
okay.
hold on. NNPC has an arm called NSPC. Hmm? That is your pipeline company. It's a subsidiary of NNPC. They manage 5,000 kilometers of multi-product pipeline. The states don't have any control over that. The states cannot tell NNPC what to do. They can't. But you have your network access code under your, like Gazette that has been developed by NMDPRA from the PIA, that enables people to come in and participate. But the upstream and midstream decision on the flow of gas pipes infrastructure still lies with NNPC. The states individually don't have control over it. I just wanted to put that in context so that it will help guide your
Yeah,
question. Thank
but
you.
Kevin, why? I mean, okay, but let him ask. Vese, go ahead, please.
Yes, okay, yeah, thanks for that. So, are you saying that, like, within the context of whatever framework that exists right now, it is futile for states to, like, sort of like want to develop a gas master plan for themselves? Like,
Me and Kalu showed you a map. Let's refer back to that map. Kalu posted a map of gas pipeline infrastructure planned, already existing. Can we just refer back to that map? Okay. There is no part of this infrastructure that already exists or is planned, yes, that any state in Nigeria has control over. None. None.
Well, what about Abia State and their gas power? How does that work? They got it. I think they got an exception a long time ago. I think Bat also got an exception, right?
Yeah, he's operating under a captive energy framework. But geometric power is not. I don't think geometric power is a
I think they got
genco.
an exemption because they were fighting with Enugu. I had a fight with Enugu that time. So I think because they use gas, right? They use gas.
Yes,
Okay, just
yes.
for the. So, but that's wrong now, Kevin. So that means a state like Lagos or even a state like Abia can say, okay, we have an oil field here, it's not being used, which is what he's asking. Why can't we just go there and develop that oil, get little gas, power one small local government
So,
area?
it is. So I'll tell you what, Carlo. The field NUPRC has to award a block first. If it's a marginal field, if it's an onshore field, depending on the size of the field, what this thing it falls under. You still have to go through. Is either a JV or a PSC. PSCs are mostly offshore, or sole risk, right? In most cases, it comes under. You still have to partner with NNPC. The federation that's represented by NNPC has a share of the assets. You have a share of the assets. NUPRC has to award a block for you to be able to operate, go into any kind of development. And earlier when we were speaking, we talked about different phases. We talked about seismic. NNPC has an arm called NSEV that does seismic for fields. Do your seismic, you come up with your data, and then you find that there's any trace of hydrocarbons, you go into your exploratory um, drilling of well. You know, you do your commercial case, and you go. If you pass that phase, and you get a recovery ratio that is is good with a good hurdle rate. You go to appraisal, then you go to development, and then you hit first oil, and then you know any way you do it, you still have to work with the state. NNPC has to work. Um, the state has to work with NNPC. Okay, so Carlo, there's a major problem in Nigeria, and it starts from Land Use Act. Because problem is that the states do not have control over their resources. Period. They don't. Nigeria operates a federal system where everything comes to the federation, and then the federation shares to the states. Okay, but the powers to explore and manage the resources at the states lies at the federal, with the exception of gold, because for many years now, some people in the northwest have been mining gold illegally and flying it out to black markets in Dara and Dubai until today, with the exception of gold. So we have to come back to the structure of the federation, which is the reason why, without fiscal federalism, we keep running this federal character system. You know, we just keep
I mean,
bullshitting
Kevin,
ourselves and wasting our time.
I'll take that answer because we really can't delve into it here. But what I hear you say is that gas is federal, states own the land.
It's federal.
Yeah,
It's
if
federal.
states could do gas, even if it's marginal gas field, it will help. But let's park that aside. I think that answers this question. But let's just nothing we can do about that. We can just say it should be maybe on the not on the exclusive list, but on the concurrent list, maybe. And I would think maybe marginal fields can be given to states, but just all the gas in Nigeria should be a federal thing. It stifles development. But I hear you, sir. But
Uncle Kalu, yeah. So, like, just on this, like, see, we understand the whole the way Nigeria is at the moment. You understand, but I'm just saying, like, even within this current dysfunction, are you saying that if my state now, for example, Delta State, wants to, in a way, whether it's partner, whether it's MO, whether it's whatever they can do, try to leverage that gas for some level of productivity. Are you saying that like
What is the structure? What is the structure of the leverage? Leverage is a very big word.
hmm,
What is the structure
if
of the leverage?
they want to,
What is the structure?
Delta
Explain it.
has gas somewhere. They want to use it. That's what he's. I mean, that's what we're all saying.
Delta has gas, they want to use it. Delta has to set up a state investment
Uh huh.
corporation, you know, and use that State Investment Corporation to set up a trust. Then that trust will now own shares in a limited liability company that will partner with NNPC to explore.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I mean,
Can I can I can I can I quickly throw light on this?
very,
Because
very, very quick. Ken, I want the guys to speak. Very, very quick,
I
Ken,
have I
please.
have I have, I have a practical experience on this one because there was a project I worked on that is a power plant project in Bielsa. So essentially, it was a project that was championed by NCDMB as part of CDI, Community Capacity Development Initiative for that power plant to be built. And the way the state government came in was the state government came in and provided, for example, they provided the land for such a project. And that project was built, it was commissioned. Until today, that project runs 24/7, utilizing the presence of gas pipeline spread all across Bayelsa. And all they did was just to tap into one of those pipelines, and and then that plant is running 24 hours right now
Who said
and providing.
who tapped in? The state tapped into the pipeline.
No, the what NCDMB created an SPV that runs that power plant. Yeah,
Ken, do you see the structure of the leverage that Ewuma is
I
talking about?
get you. When you say structure of leverage,
Okay.
leverage is you are spot on. It's a very big word. Yeah. I get that.
So,
So
so, so,
I
so
mean,
in, so in this case, you are saying that the state can provide land, then the gas company can come to that land, develop the gas field on that land.
exactly. That's an example. That's just an example, and that's a life case scenario of something that actually happened.
Uh-huh.
That plant was commissioned by the
By the
president.
way, NCMDB is government, oh.
Of course, now FCDNB
Is
is federal
government.
government.
Okay,
By the way,
It's important to
okay, good
clarify
to
that
know.
it's
it's federal
government.
government. Yeah, yeah,
Good
yeah.
to know. He has dropped off. Let's get Teke. Teke is here. Teke, you got the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Kalu, and thank you, Kelvin, for another rich space. The listening to Kelvin's breakdown on some of the things, hindrances. I know with Nigeria, if you don't listen to any little part of our problems, you just get migraines instantly. But I want to step out a little bit, kind of go maybe 1,000 feet higher than this conversation that's going on right now. Maybe Kevin, maybe you can have a different space on the cost of building transmission line. Because holistically, when you look at all of these problems that we're talking about, you would have thought, I am thinking, and of course, I'm not knowledgeable enough to know whether this thinking is flawed or what. You would have thought that, after looking at the pipeline master plan or the pipeline that you plans that you just said, you are seeing that through that pipeline, you will notice that none of our gas is designed to be utilized within our country to improve or increase production within our own economy, because everything is just geared to an export out of the country. Okay. And Kevin also talked about, you know, transmission lines. Wouldn't it be more useful so that maybe the government can get more internally generated taxes to increase productivity within the country by at least expanding our transmission line so that the additional 5,000 megawatts that is even being wasted, that is
Sorry, Take. The transmission line you speak of, is it gas pipeline
power
transmission
transmission line,
or
power,
power
power,
transmission? Yeah, sorry.
power. Power transmission line, so that you can increase productivity within the economy to fund all of this crazy take the gas out just so you can earn foreign exchange. Wouldn't that make more sense? And this is just a layman talking here. Thank you.
Take, if you listen to my breakdown of the issues that Nestle has earlier, you see, I said The transmission infrastructure that TCN, by the way, is owned by the government. It's owned by the government. Transmission infrastructure they have today is not able to take more than 82% of the load generated by the gencos. So if you were a businessman, for example, take it, you have $500 million, just for example, and you say, come and invest in the power sector in Nigeria, and you say, okay, let's look at the transmission infrastructure. And then they tell you the government owns transmission infrastructure in Nigeria 100%. And the transmission infrastructure it has cannot take more than 82% of the load generated by the gencos. Will you bring your money?
No, I will not. But that is why I'm asking, wouldn't it have made sense for the government to focus on expanding the transmission
So
line?
you see this. Number one, today, the 2025 budget is dead. It's dead because in a cash waterfall scenario where you do cascading, $62.50 is break even for all the loans that government is owing on crude oil. 447,000 barrels per day is used to pay debts, crude oil swap. Today, out of about 714,000. $65 is amber light. You know when you have red, amber, and green. Red is stop, amber is get ready, green is go. $70 is green. Okay? Today, crude oil price is hovering between $62 and $65 a barrel. I think it's going to settle around $60 and come down to 55 and stay in that range for most of the second quarter of 2025.
That's
So 2025 budget is dead.
that's a big problem.
The deficit financing is 18%. Debt to GDP ratio is over 30%. Okay? The government cannot borrow enough to cover the deficit for 2025 budget. It can fund salaries and pensions. It can't fund capex. It can't even fund up to 20% of the capex in 2025 budget. Where will they get the money to invest in transmission infrastructure?
Uh-uh. But bros, no be borrow with the borrow since we start this thing.
But we're borrowing based on $75 a barrel at 2 million output. Now he's saying oil is going to go down to
I heard
$50 a
him.
barrel,
I
and
heard
output is
him.
about 1.9. So it's crazy.
I heard him. I don't understand what he's saying.
And Kevin, you said that
So,
very, very
so does it
casually,
does it
Kevin.
make
Kevin,
sense?
if oil prices go to $50 a
Voila.
barrel and stay there, then Nigeria is in serious trouble. Kevin, you just said that in passing.
Kalu, let
You
me
are saying
tell
it
you,
very
Kalu, let
casually.
me tell you what is even more. Kalu, let me tell you what is even more worrying. And after this space, I will share a spreadsheet with you. Let me tell you what is more worrying. The 447,000 barrels of crude today, every single breaking day, Nigeria pays today 447,000 barrels of crude to debtors, to creditors, who borrowed the country money upfront in exchange for crude oil future production. All your refinery turnaround that NNPC wasted, all your vendor financing program, all your project gazelle, they contribute to the 447,000 barrel debt on a daily basis. Every breaking day, Nigeria is paying 447,000 barrels of crude to
Kevin, let me
creditors.
ask you a question. Kevin,
Okay?
question for you. When we borrowed money from Afrexim Bank, we are paying them back in barrels, right, for the dollar. So if we give them the barrels of
Yes.
oil, are we good, or we have to pay them the dollar amount?
Let me. So what is more worrying is this. For those for sale agreements, there's usually what they call a strike price. It's like a future contract, a strike price. That price is what insulates the creditor. It says, when prices are high, oil prices are high, the people who are borrowing are happy. You know why? Because if they say a strike price is at $57 a barrel, for example, what they are telling you is that you deliver the crude oil, the company they nominate, if they are not a commodity trader themselves, there's a bank, they will nominate a trader to collect the oil on their behalf. Trader will sell the oil, pay back the dollar equivalent at $57, which is the strike price. The difference between the strike price and the open market rate. So, say for example, open market rate, for example, is $75. That difference of about $18 a barrel, it goes into what they call an offshore debt service reserve account, if there's one, that has been set up by the debtor, the person borrowing the money. Now, when prices are high, the people borrowing the money are happy because it's a hack they've seen to be able to make money for themselves without reporting it. Hmm? So the difference between the strike price and the open market rate goes into an offshore reserve account, debt service reserve account that is not appropriated by the government. It's black. They can do anything they want. It's like a dark pool. But when prices come down below that strike price, so if, for example, strike price is 65, prices drop to 60, the trader will not take the oil. Why? Because the contract says that you have to give us the oil at an open market rate that is equivalent to the strike price. So if there's a $5 difference, you either have to put up more crude oil that will compensate for that difference,
Mm.
hmm, or
Mm.
you
Mm.
use your debt service reserve account to pay them cash
But
equivalent of that
our oil
difference.
output has not gone up. So where are we going to get
So,
the
I'll tell you what is going on now. The contracts that exist for the amount of crude oil that the government pays every day, the average price, the cumulative price, average price of that for sale agreement, all the agreements they have, based on the data I have, is anywhere around $60 to $62.50. Where is crude oil price? Crude oil price, Brent is about $64, $65 a barrel. I think it's going to come down to like $60 or 55 and stay around that range for another 1 or 2 months, depending on how things go in geopolitics. Okay? How will they pay the difference? So, what is happening now is that the government has 60 million barrels of crude that has been allocated to people to come and take lift, but they've not lifted it. And then they've not lifted it because of crude oil price. They've allocated it for your vessel to come to the terminal, load. It takes about 4 days for you to load a standard vessel with crude, and then take off. They've not lifted it. It's hanging. So the government is having to divert some of that crude out to other realistic use, so that because if you keep crude and the throughput gets filled up as you drill it on a daily basis and it goes from flow station to terminal, there will be an overflooding of throughput and there will not be a place for you to stop. And you can't stop the rigs. So you have to send out the crude from the terminals. Are you seeing the bigger problem they have?
mm.
And this problem they have is because, number one, you have too much debt. Number two, for a lot of these forward agreements that were structured between 2019 and date, they didn't build in debt service reserve account as a buffer to shock drop in price. So you have basically what you call a cash waterfall model that helps you to do best and worst case scenarios and to plan. The only one they did a DSRA on was on Gazelle 1, Project Gazelle 1, which was a loan from last year that was heavily inflated. They pledged 164 million barrels in exchange for 3.4 when you needed only 45 million barrels of crude to pay back that loan with interest. Okay? So this is a bigger problem Nigerian government has than even funding the budget.
Mm. Mm. Okay, Kevin, let's not okay. Kevin, I was going to ask Abasogo has dropped. Let's let Jack the Builder. Jack, welcome to the conversation. We're talking NNPC, we're talking the frontier oil drilling, we're talking the gas pipelines. Jack, you've got the floor.
Thank you so much, Kalu. Kelvin, good evening. Good to be here and listen to some of this analysis. So, I mean, um, some of us already know these issues as regards to funding our budgets and the debts and all of that. But I'm more particular about where it hits me differently, which is about Southeast now. So I know that there is a concession, a company called, I think, Frado or something, yeah, Gas Limited, got a concession to, to build a pipeline from somewhere in Edo State, I think, or Ben also, all the way down to Anambra. And there's rumor sometime last month that construction has started. I just want to confirm first if this is true, if there's any truth to this, because I know that they got this concession as far back as 2013 or 2014 or thereabout. So I just want to know if you have any information on that line. The number two question would be about, can you give us an idea of how much really it costs to build a standard, high pressure gas pipeline, maybe like a kilometer of it, and if you think that there's any state government in Southeast that has the capacity to actually build one? Thank you.
Kevin,
Your first question
Kevin, I don't know
about
if you got my question.
Frado, yeah, I don't, I'm not in the know about the maybe joint venture between Frado and government, or what pipeline, what project they have. I'm not privy to the details of that transaction. But your second question was about if state governments can build. Can you please, if you don't mind, I'm sorry.
No, so the first the that question is part, like there are two parts to it. The first one is how much it costs, like an average cost to build the high
So,
pressure
so,
gas
so,
pipeline. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
if you listen earlier when we started, I don't know, maybe you joined later. I was talking about the EPC costs, the design of AKK. We were talking about Kalu even brought a map of existing and proposed gas pipelines in Nigeria, and we analyzed the pipes. We're talking about the fact that we compared it to an export pipeline that Russia built, Gazprom built in partnership with Sinop, I think, either Sinop or SCMPC, to China through Mongolia. I think their APC was anywhere between 1.2 and 1.5 million dollars per kilometer, about 4,900 kilometers, if I'm not mistaken, anywhere around that range.
oh,
They constructed. It took them 4 to 5 years, and they were done. They finished it, 4 to 5 years.
I, I think where he's going to is that is there any Southeast states, Abia, Enugu, that can put something together if they had to do it on their own? I think that's where we're
Okay,
going
okay,
to.
okay. So the cost of typical cost of a gas pipeline project per kilometer ranges anywhere between 650 700K, and if it's a domestic pipe, it shouldn't be more than $1 million
Per
per
kilometer.
kilometer. In Nigeria, NGIC, which is the subsidiary of NNPC that's in charge of building infrastructure for gas, is quoting $30.2 million per kilometer. Number one. Number two, state governments cannot build gas pipelines themselves because of the way Nigeria is structured today. NNPC has a subsidiary called NSPC that manages the pipeline infrastructure, multi-product pipeline. And NGIC is the only entity that can, in partnership with any other player, commission pipeline projects for gas in Nigeria, transmission projects, because of the way it's currently structured.
But
Okay? Because oil and gas is in the exclusive list. Oil and gas falls under mining, and mining is in the exclusive legislative list. Mining is not under the concurrent legislative
Kevin, if
list.
I may,
So even if all the states come together and contribute money, they still have to go and meet NNPC.
Kevin, if I may, if I may, say just take maybe Enugu State or Abia or Imo, that's APC close to Tinubu. So I think if Imo State was to build a pipeline and go to Tinubu and say, hey Tinubu, this pipeline will make the Southeast vote for you. I mean, can Tinubu sign a waiver and say, okay, this pipeline should be connected to the NNPC guy? Do you get where I'm coming from? Like, let's talk the politics now.
A better way to go to approach it would be for the Southeast governors to go to FEC, speak to the president, and have FEC approve.
I see what I'm saying.
Okay, I thought Kalu, I'm sorry. Let me just come back. So the new team at NNPC, the executive management and the board, the appointment letter, if you check the two or three page document, the appointment letter, you know, what circulated around social media was the second page. The first page didn't circulate around social media. The first page had the letterhead of the Ministry of Finance and Mofi. So the appointment letter didn't come from the villa, it came from the Minister of Finance because the Minister of Finance is in charge of Ministry of Finance Incorporated. Ministry of Finance Incorporated, based on the PIA, owns 50% of NNPC as a group. So the employer of the new management of NNPC and board is the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, which is under the Minister of
That's holding
Finance.
it for me in trust. I'll be holding it for the state in trust.
Holding it for the state in trust, the first federating unit, federal, state, and local governments. What the point I'm trying to make here is simple. You have to follow the reporting structure on the organogram.
Mm,
So the state governors have to go to
like,
the minister, the CME, and the president and say, please, we want
mm.
this. And then they'll send a memo and
Uh,
Jack, you see
get
where I'm coming from,
NGIC to
Abi?
commission a
Jack has
project.
answered your question. That's what
yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah,
saying.
yeah. So just very briefly, I think that when it comes to the cost of construction, yeah, I feel personally that maybe in Nigeria, because of lack of steel, steel processing plants in the country, I can tell that maybe that might also cause, it will cost more basically to build a gas pipeline in Nigeria. So that is understood. Then for the
No, no,
what
no, no,
you are
no, no,
talking
no,
about.
no. I don't agree with that. Please, please don't justify the inflated EPC
So,
cost. I don't agree with that.
No, no, no.
I don't
Kelvin,
agree with
hold on.
that.
Kelvin, hold on. Kelvin, hold on.
Hold
Kelvin,
on.
hold on. I'm coming. I want to
The
say something.
Chinese were supposed to fund AKK. They pulled out. Why?
Well, I wouldn't know why, honestly, because I mean you're the expert here, so
inflated cost.
you probably have more
Inflated
information.
cost.
Exactly. Okay, that's fine. So the last point I want to make is this. I understand concurrent exclusive list and all of that. It's just like, trunk A roads in Nigeria. Normally, state governors are not supposed to build them. But I mean, if it affects the life of your people, you can say, oh, the state will want to bear this cost. So the question I just wanted to ask is, looking at the finances of our state, do you genuinely believe that if a state says, oh, we want to build this, right? Forget about approvals now. I know that they can always
No,
work
you can't.
around
Jack, you
approvals.
can't forget about approvals. What? How are you forgetting about approvals?
No,
Can the
I
pilot
mean
stay
that
up
they can
without approval
navigate, I believe.
from control tower? Can it lift off? It can't lift off. You can't forget approvals.
No,
If there's no
okay,
approvals,
so
there's no
agree.
project.
Okay,
The
I
problem,
mean,
the problem here is the federal structure. That's the
Just
problem
just to
here.
intercept, please.
The problem is not the
I
capital.
think we are.
If the structure is right, the capital will come, will show up. The capital will show up. It's the same explanation I gave about power. The problem in the power sector is not investors coming in. Investors are willing to come in because the population is much. But the investors are asking themselves, what's the per capita income of Nigerians? Can they afford steady power? That's the first question they're asking themselves. They are looking at what is the percentage of Nigerians that are metered? What's the percentage of the technical losses? What's the percentage of the commercial losses? What's the infrastructural capacity of TCN to transmit load generated by the Gencos? What are the prices of gas? Is it fair? Is it cost reflective on the cost of sending gas from fields down to the generating companies? These are the questions they are asking themselves. If the structure is not right, if the structure is faulty, investors will not show up. Look, capital is always available. The problem is not the money. The problem here is the structure. If the structure is right, the investors will show up.
Yeah.
well, I think the bigger
You
problem
can
here
go
is
back to the
poverty,
telecom sector
honestly,
as an
if you ask
Jack, I
me.
example.
think he has
You can go
answered
back to
us.
the telecom sector
Honestly,
as an
Jack, I think he has
example.
answered us. I think what if I can take anything from him?
Obasanjo fixed the telecom structure and the investors showed
True.
up.
Same with
They showed
same with
up.
cement.
Same with cement. They showed
So
up.
Jack, I think he has answered. Let these five state governors go back, do a plan, do their gas pipeline, then go to FEC and say, hey, want to invest this. We're five states. Election is coming up. So they would like to listen. They would like to listen to what can, because if they do this, they can actually get votes in the southeast, believe it or not. So the onus is back on the southeast to go and market this thing. Like he has given us the situation on ground, that the situation on ground, the laws do not favor states and gas. But go and make your case. Airports are owned by the federal government, but states build them, right? So the same can happen. At this Augur, Jack, appreciate you coming in here. That's Temi at this. Sorry, get it right. Temi, go for it.
I can hear you. Thanks, Carly, for hosting the space again. And Kevin, thank you um for for all the contribution. I was looking at the map, right? This was a clarification because I see on the map that there's a plan to go through the southeast, right? And like if you look at the existing gas pipelines today, they're mostly in the south. 80% of the country is not covered. But then there are plans to go up north as well and go to the southeast. But you raised a concern that there was no gas pipeline going to the southeast. Is it that they've stopped those projects or what?
Yeah, if you look at that map, you'll see, go to the legend. The legend shows the red line, gas pipeline,
Hmm.
dotted line, planned and proposed.
Hmm.
Are you seeing the difference?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you noticing that all the pipelines, the existing pipelines, are running from the Niger Delta through Benin and then running to the
Hmm.
southwest? And the only one that goes, OB3, that goes is the proposed feed from Benin, OB3, down to Ajaokuta to feed Ajaokuta. Are you seeing any consistent red line go through the southeast?
No, there's so what that I'm saying. I see. So the
No, no, no,
hold
no,
on
no,
now.
no, no. Are you seeing any consistent red line
That's what I'm saying.
going through the southeast?
So I don't see any constant red line going to southeast, but I saw the constant red lines, right? They are the ones that exist today, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So my point is, it looks like all we have is pipeline all the way in the south, then all the way to Abeokuta on the west, and then going to the west of West Africa, and the one that goes to Ajakuta. So if you look from like even from Ibadan upward, there's nothing. From everything north of Ajakuta, there's nothing, right? So it seems to me like this is more like coastal lines. The only one that breaks that flow is the Ajakuta one.
Yes,
But I
these
see
are.
the plan proposed window that goes through Ibadan or your Ilorin in southwest, and then that goes through Humaya,
Mm,
Enugu, and So it looks to me like okay, they've only prioritized the coastal lines for now. And my question is,
mm.
the ones that they planned, the broken lines, the red lines, they're still going to do it, or they're not doing it at all.
So, this is what we discussed earlier. I don't know if you joined
Sorry,
later,
I
but
broke, I joined when that was what I was asking the call. That's how I was asking the question.
okay.
So I was there.
So, if I was going to go back, you have the feed from Obigbo in River State, that's Port Harcourt,
Mm-hmm.
to Umaya,
Mm-hmm.
to Enugu. The left leg is the one that goes through the River Niger crossing, which is where they are right now. 1.8 kilometers, they've not been able to cross. The right leg goes from Enugu, it goes all the way to, that's the planned one, future one, phase two of this gas aggregation. But in this plan, in all this plan, there is no plan for, let us set up a pressure metering and reduction station in each of these states in the southeast. And notice very well that in this plan, there's no line that goes all the way to Anambra, to Onitsha, or Nnewi. Have you noticed it?
But it goes
So
to
are you going to
Umahia,
build?
Enugu.
No, hold
They're
on. I'm
all
coming.
dotted,
I'm coming.
dotted line.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm
We
coming.
have some.
Are you going to build?
Mhm.
Are you going to build a distribution pipe from Enugu without a PMRS down all the way to Onitsha, Nnewi? That's a question I'm asking.
Okay.
In all of this, there is no plan by NJIC, as far as I know, to build a pressure metering and reduction station in each of these states where these proposed or planned pipelines are running through. The only plan is to build the pipe across the states and feed Ajaokuta.
And also to feed Jalingo.
Exactly.
Okay. So my
But that Jalingo one is the second leg of AKK that no one is even talking about right now because, the first one, they've not been able to finish
I
it.
mean, like the creating Kelly that in Nigeria only two regions have got gas: south and southeast, right? That we know of for now. And
And
exactly.
Southwest.
southwest has
Southwest.
gas. Lagos, is it Lagos?
Okay, that has
Yeah,
gas.
yeah, that has
Okay, that
gas,
has gas.
and
Sorry.
there is no pipeline in the
Okay.
southeast. It was a, if it was a pipeline in the southeast, this would be easier because Enugu is right there. I mean, the pipeline in the east to just take the gas easily through Kogi and all that to the north. I'm
Yeah,
not sure what's going. I'm not
but they're planning to build it now. That's what I'm
planning now. They've
wondering
been planning.
if it's an issue
If
actually.
it's a plan in Nigeria, it's not going to happen. I mean, the plan is on the table. This is an
But
old map, very very old map, and it's not. I don't know about that. I
so
don't know
but
about.
the way okay, I don't want to um belabor the point, but it seems to me more like the gas pipelines are in the coastal area because that's basically why you have it in Lagos in the first place as well. There's nothing like if you take away Lagos and Abeokuta, which is just 1 hour from Lagos, there's nothing in the southwest.
So the
Like the
gas,
vast majority of
look at
it.
no. If you take away, correct me if I'm wrong. If you take away the NIPP came after the gas pipe. I think they put the gas pipe to take power to West Africa. So from south, it then went. If you're going to Ghana, to Togo, that
Yes.
line, that's what they first of all built it for. Then NIPP made them connect it into the southwest to power those thermal plants, Geregu and the rest. But they've never ever built any gas pipeline to power the southeast, even the south itself. The south is just leaving the south to go out. It's going to the west of Nigeria. So we're not using the gas locally. It's all being exported to the Lagos cluster, Calabar cluster. But Kevin can explain it better. That's what I see.
Okay. So
No,
let
Kalu, you're spot on. That is your spot on. Because if you look at it, look at the legend, you see gas fields are red,
Yeah,
oil fields are green, gas and oil fields are red and green. Okay? If you look at the gas fields are mostly offshore Delta, Bayelsa.
yeah,
Most of those gas fields offshore.
yeah,
Most of the gas fields in this legend are offshore Delta and Bayelsa.
yeah.
Yeah? Offshore, those PSC fields. The fiscal terms to pipe the gas off from offshore down in onshore and then take it through the horizontal commercial framework, NGC, to the different regions is the problem
Yeah.
here. So in the future, you might see vertical commercial agreements where NGC is not part of it, and companies are going to take gas, gather and take gas, from offshore fields in the Niger Delta to different parts of Nigeria, mostly the southwest. You might see that.
But Kevin, just a
Okay?
quick one.
But the point you're trying to make, Carlo, is that for you to drive commerce in
Correct.
Nigeria, for you to increase the chances of supplying the gas-based industries, like improving power generation and other uses for natural gas to make steel, to make urea, to make different uses for natural gas, to fabricate ceramics, to fabricate glass, and all of those uses for natural gas. For you to stand any chance of doing that, which is the real sector, real B2B based sector, you need these transmission pipes. You need to build this transmission pipe. It has to go from planned and proposed to actual red
Okay,
consistent
so and I'm
lines.
happy that Tinubu is the president today because he has been fighting for state rights. And there's no greater state rights in my view than these gas pipelines. We can't have federal government saying that the state government cannot drill for gas, even if it's a marginal field. So Delta has to wait, Bayelsa has to wait for federal to come and drill their own gas. I mean, Russians, the Germans have a lot of idle plants that don't have cheap power. If Bayelsa stays, the whole of Bayelsa is going to be a free gas zone. You can come and establish your steel, your glass, your heavy metals, and aluminum plants and get free power. People will come to Bayelsa even with the insecurity because it's so cheap. But we're waiting for the federal government to do it. Within 24 months, why haven't we changed this law? I mean, how hard everybody is decamping to the APC. How hard is it to pass a law to say gas should go to concurrent, or we'll give, not how we have power. If you are doing maybe whatever cubic centimeter gas pipe, you can do it at the state level. Why is it so hard to change what we see here on this space? They see it too. What's the problem? I don't know.
Okay,
Kevin,
I have another question for you, Kevin, please.
very
Kevin,
quick, very quick.
Kevin,
So again, others,
yeah,
very
yeah.
quick.
Just a question, Kevin. When I look at the Nigeria power problem, to me, it's more like it's a very stupid. It's very stupid to me why we don't have power, because people are willing to pay for power in Nigeria. They're paying for generators anyway, so the market is there, and no government policy has been a hindrance. If you were like, if you were,
Sorry, Adisa, please don't ask me a political
I'm not asking for
question.
I'm
I'm
not, I'm not
not
asking
going
for
to
a
answer
question.
it.
I'm not asking for a
The
question.
question
The
about
question, the
electricity
question I'm asking you
tariffs.
is, the question I'm asking you is, please,
Okay.
if you were like a consultant, right? How do you think Nigeria can produce, say, 20,000 megawatts of power in the next 5 years? What do we need to do?
The problem is not getting the Gencos to come and invest and increase generation. That's not the problem. Like I said, listen, if the structure and the markets are right, investors will show up in 6 months and they'll start working. The problem here, my
So, what
friend,
structure should we be
is the
putting in?
fact that number one, TCN that is owned by the government 100%
Mhm.
is not able to transmit more than 82% of the load generated currently. That should tell you everything you need to
So,
know.
so my question then is, should we be selling TCN, letting them get government out of it?
In my view, my brother, in my view, I explained the situation of 2025 budget. And I was trying to make you understand that the government does not even have money to fund its existing capex in the
Mhm.
budget. Where would they get money to invest in TCN? Where would they get the money?
No, so Kevin, I disagree with you, because my only thing is, when the government, I feel like really it's about structure. Not, we don't even need to spend $1 to get power in Nigeria, in my opinion. My thinking is government should be withdrawing and setting the right policies, and investment will flow in the Nigeria to produce power. I just want to know, like, what kind of things policy should they be doing to do that? The state thing makes
Okay.
sense, but what other things should they be doing to basically accelerate investment in power? I don't think you should spend $1 from federal
So
government.
so I think the government needs to unbundle TCN. That's my view. If you don't have the money to invest in TCN, unbundle it, number one. Number two, as painful as, and this is why my brother I said, don't ask me a political question, because you see, this Twitter is a very unique place. People will just take something you said and then spin it out of control. Nobody in Nigeria wants to hear about high electricity tariff. Nobody wants to hear about it, and I understand. Per capita income dropped from $2,100 to $835 in 3 years. Nigerians are suffering. So I don't blame them because the purchasing power parity is in the gutter. Okay? I don't blame Nigerians. They are suffering on many ends. So if Nigerians are saying, on top of all the shege we're saying, you want to still increase tariffs and you're telling us cost reflective because devaluation has made electricity tariffs to be below, far, far below what the markets need to even get their cost. Eh? Nobody wants to. But as painful as it sounds, my brother, I am telling you that the tariff people are paying from band B to band C or band D or E is not cost reflective. As painful as it sounds, so I'm not the bearer of bad news, but I'm telling you, number one. Number two, the impairments that discos have. Number one, a lot of the discos are not liquid because those licenses were given to cronies and friends. They were not given to companies that have the equity to invest in it. And what happened was you had a 70% debt to equity ratio, 30% equity, 70% debt. So, for example, the company that used to own AEDC borrowed $200 million 10 years ago at 150 per dollar. And then 10 years after, the debt ballooned just from fair value gains, revaluation of your FX rate. $200 million principal turned to 300 billion from 30 billion. Principal, oh. The debt servicing probably went from 1.4 billion to like how much? 32% of 300 billion today is how much per year? It's about 100, is about 95 billion. Eh?
Uh-huh.
how much is AEDC generating to pay 95 billion naira per year
Not
to the
not
bank?
even near that. All right.
Are you seeing the problem?
Yeah, I agree.
Then you also have the problem. You also have the problem of the fact that because of these technical and commercial losses of you not having enough prepaid to get cost recoveries, the discos are not able to put up bank guarantees as minimum payment, minimum offtake guarantee with the market operator so that they can pay the gencos the money they they are owing for supply of load from upstream. So if you don't address these issues and correct the structure, investors will not come in because they see the structure. They have the numbers. The problem is not them coming in. Look, investors are always eager and waiting. They are by the sidelines watching and waiting. As soon as the structure and the environment is right, you see them deploy capital immediately.
Simple structure and
Thank,
okay.
thank you. So essentially, we don't have power because we're not willing to pay for it. The people.
Because the
Because what?
policy is
No,
not
no,
right.
because
So
the
we
policy
got
is
to
not
move.
right because the people don't want to pay for it now.
Adi, we're gonna move.
Okay, no problem.
Let's
Thank you.
get Rudolph. Rudolph, coming here. Adi,
Yeah,
I
hello
push it.
everybody.
Yeah. How you doing?
Everybody, yeah, good evening, everybody. Kevin, you've made a very sound presentation, and I would just like to make a comment before I pass my question. With regards to these licenses, you can't actually decide to go drilling without the licenses because it already played out in the past when Tinubu tried to kind of initiate an IPP and Obasanjo stopped it. So that's just for that. Then to my question, I would like to ask, what is the status of Brass LNG? That's the first one. Because when I was in engineering school, I used to hear of Brass LNG and we even had dreams of probably would work there. But up to this time, I don't really know what the status is. Then, secondly, I would like to ask you, what is the problem with our NLNG, the Bonny LNG? Is it because currently from your presentation, you said we are operating below 60%? Is it like an equipment issue? Is it operational issues, or is it a feedstock issue? And lastly, I would like to get your perspective. Is it better we kind of invest in more LNG projects? Because I think like the LNG market is kind of exploding because of the challenges this Ukrainian-Russian war. I think that would be. What's your view on that? Is it better we kind of invest in this direction, get more revenues, and build the internal networks? Thank you.
Kevin, did you get all these questions? I had a lot of
Yes.
questions.
Yes. Yes. The first question was it was
Brass
about
Energy,
Brass
what's going
LNG.
on?
Yeah?
He wants to work there.
So
No, I
so
don't intend working there. It's a
uh,
former dream.
Philip, Nigerian NNPC owns 49% of Brass LNG. Eni has sold their onshore assets to Oando. They are still offshore. Konoko Phillips has sold their Nigerian assets. Uh, I think Konoko Phillips sold their Nigerian assets to Oando, if I'm not mistaken. I think that led to the feud between Gabriel Volpi and Oando back in the day, many years ago. I think they sold it for about $1.1 billion, if I'm not mistaken. And then you have Brass Holding Company Limited, which is an affiliate of Total. So, look, the problem is this. Uh, Even if these companies were to put their heads together and say, okay, no, I want to compete with NLNG, what's the business case for them? Number one. Because there was a month this year, the third week of February, when the feedstock to NLNG dropped to about 27%. 27%. Third week of February this year. The feedstock, the capacity utilization is below 60%. What's the business case? Why would you want to build installed capacity for liquefying methane into LNG or separating wet gas into lean gas, get all your family of C1 to C4 when you don't have feedstock, when you don't have assurance of feedstock. You can't even commission FID without signing a gas supply and purchase agreement with aggregators to get gas feedstock. You can't commission a project. You can't. It's not viable. So the question is, between NNPC, which is mostly JV partner, operating like holding government's assets, federal government of Nigeria's assets, NNPC, Wando, that owns Eni's onshore assets, ConocoPhillips that has sold its onshore assets to Wando, and then Brass LNG, which is an affiliate of Total Energies. Where are they going to get the gas when Total, Shell are struggling to get gas to feed NLNG, which they are major shareholders in? Where are they going to get gas? So if you can't get the gas, why would you want to build infrastructure for gas when your competitor is struggling?
It's an integrated problem. It's an integrated
Yeah.
problem. With all that gas reserves, no gas pipelines, no gas laws, no gas availability. It looks like all this
So
gas.
so
I don't know.
just going to the second question. So the challenges LNG Bonnie is having is actually not like something like equipment operational. It's mainly a feedstock.
It's
Ah,
feedstock, period. No long story,
then
feedstock.
we have a long way to go. Then.
Very long way. What's all this gas thing we're talking about in Nigeria? We're not ready. We're not ready. What
Yeah,
happened in
because
Nigeria?
I
Come
was
on.
thinking like my own view. If I was to like given this kind of business case, I was thinking we develop the LNG, earn revenues, and build the internal networks. But you
How
don't
you,
even
my
have
brother, my brother, my
gas to
brother?
feed
How are
these
you going to
plants.
develop LNG
Yeah,
without
that's the
feedstock?
challenge. So
How,
it's like
the way you're saying it is
it's
very
like
smooth and sweet.
roofing a house without foundation. It's not possible. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Let's go to Eze Chikwelu. Eze, how are you doing?
Yeah,
Rudolph, I appreciate you, sir. Thanks. Eze, go ahead.
yeah, I'm good. Thank you, Carl, for having me. Kelvin, Kelvin, two things. First of all, Kelvin, you need to tell us the food you eat and the water you drink,
His
so
his brain is I
we
don't
can
know.
learn exactly. So we'll be able to magnet things when we see them the way you've done. So I think everything that has been discussed here to me is the relic of the past, of NNPC. Kelvin, part of this, the topic of this space says the new NNPC board. Kevin, I want to come in from the future. I want to come in looking at the future, right? We have a new NNPC board. A lot of people, whenever you have a change in government or board like this, there's always a floodlight of, hope. But this one, I think there's a sprinkle of hope around, right? But we don't know. People would always come around and say they are veterans in the industry. They've been around for a minute. They know what they are doing. They've been with SPDC, Shell, and blah, blah, blah. Kelvin, before you answer this question, you are the only, let me give you your flower here. You are the only person I believe I listen to when it comes to oil and gas in Nigeria as of today. Any other
Please
person,
don't say that. Though.
this is this
Please
Same
is
don't
same
say
this,
that
same
this,
thing
outside
here.
Africa.
Same thing. If
this
Kevin
is
does
my
not
personal.
confirm it, it's not working for me. Kevin must confirm it.
Exactly. Kelvin, even if government publishes anything, I would say I will go to your handle. I'll wait on you on Arise and say, what has Kevin said? Has he said something? If he's not said something, I will not take it. Right. So I want you to know the work you've done so far, the what you have earned, and is my way of saying thank you and well done. So looking forward into the future, right? The NNPC board, great guys, profile, great guys on paper. We may not be able to tell sitting here now what they would do, but looking at their policy angle or policy direction, do you think we are going to get some breath of fresh air? You can rate them for now, looking at their policy direction 1 to 10 if you want. Do you think we are going to get some breath of fresh air within NNPC? Or
Okay.
if not, what direction would you prefer they go to? Thank you.
Easy. Thank you very much for very kind words. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So, first of all, I'll tell you that the new board and management are an improvement on what you had before. There's a marked difference. The statement Ojulari made about frontier basin exploration, I think is a political statement. I don't think he's serious about it. Because he's been in the sector for more than 30 years. He knows this thing like the back of his palm. His career started around the time when PSC 93, IBB structured PSC 93 and, awarded 80 oil blocks out to companies, and then they put in the fiscal terms that part of the conditions on which they will be awarded was they will explore frontier basins in these 6 basins I mentioned earlier. And if we're not around, I mentioned Bida, Kudu Up, Ahoko South. I mentioned the Anambra Basin, Dahomey. I mentioned Sokoto Basin. I mentioned Chad Basin. Then the Benue Basin. So you have the Benue Basin, you have the Upper Benue, you have the Lower Benue. The Upper Benue you have was what you have. It used to be the Gongola, but it's now the Bauchi Gombe. Lower Benue, I mentioned Onitsha and Abakiliki Belt. So this new board, their first task is to review and audit. Their first task, the board. Notice before now, NNPC board did not have board committees. You can't have a company that size without board committees. Risk management, financial committee, board audit committee, different kinds of because boards are important because they serve as accountability and check for management. They set strategic vision and direction for management. That's why boards exist. They're extremely important. You can't have companies run without boards because boards enforce corporate governance. And because most of these large corporations and companies are subject to regulators. So in the oil and gas sector, you have NUPRC, you have NMDPRA. They require corporate governance so that they don't fall foul of the laws that govern the sector or industry. So the first step for this new board is to build corporate governance structure, which in my opinion did not exist because Mele was running a one-man show. There was no board. NNPC, the former board was like on paper. They were not in existence. There was no board. So the first step is to build corporate governance structure. And I think this new board is starting with that. It's going to take some time before you see any result. I'm not holding brief for them. If you know me very well that I have been very critical of them. I'm not holding brief. I say it as it is. Okay? When Ujulari made the comments, I criticized it because I felt a it was like a move that was not smart. It was like out of character, didn't make any sense considering the experience he has. But I think it's a political statement because considering that nearly $30 billion has been expended in Nasarawa, in Bauchi, Gombe, and in Borno, in the Chad Basin, and there's not been any results. And I heard this week that just passed, one of the anti-corruption agencies raided FIS office in Abuja. You see very well that listen, they have a long way to go. I'm not holding my breath. Okay, I'm not holding my breath. I'm not going to come and tell you, oh, in 5 years you see this, you see that, because they have a huge hole on their balance sheet. NNPC has a huge hole on their balance sheet. Um, you cannot really get anything working in NNPC without you sending it out from the government control to the markets. NNPC has to move from being operated by the government because Nigerian government has proven over 60 years that it doesn't have capacity to do business and run business. It just doesn't have it. It has to go to the markets. And for you to go to the market, it goes through several processes. Number one, you have to do evaluation and classification of all your assets. Yeah, you have to check the reservoir modeling, check the estimated ultimate recovery, check your contingent assets and liabilities. You have to look at your net asset value. You have to model it after NAV, and then you have to model your 2P and 3P reserves after DCF, and then arrive at a confluence of your value. You start valuation, which is the middle or second step, and then you go to issuers for you to go to the market. NNPC has to transfer control and operation from government memos to what the villa wants, from what the villa wants to what the board appointed by the shareholders in the market wants for the corporation and how they are creating value for shareholders. That 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 step is very significant. And in my estimates, this is going to take. I was in a meeting earlier this past week, and I was just saying that listen, this process might take at the minimum, based on the realities I see, 18 months. 18 months. The first step will take them 6 to 9 months. The second step will take them maybe another 6 months. Third step will take them 3 months. So add 9 plus 6 plus 3. That's 18 months. So the question is, between now and 2027 election, do you have 18 months? Do you think the president will want IPO to come 3 or 4 months before presidential election? Are you with me?
Yeah.
Yes,
So this
yes.
is this is this is why I am like cautiously optimistic, cautiously with a huge, you know, um, like bracket or asterisk on the both sides. I'm cautiously optimistic about the new board and management. I'm not holding my breath. I'm not holding breath for them, but I'm telling you that they are a huge improvement on the past because before now there was no board. It was a one-man show.
Hmm. Interesting.
Carlo, can I throw in my last question to Kelvin?
Very, very quick,
Carlo,
because
the question also,
also I wanted very, very quick.
yeah, the question also goes to you, Carlo. I want to, this is like putting you guys on the spotlight, but Kelvin, if you guys don't want to answer, fine. Kelvin and Carlo, if NNPC or any other person that comes up here, please, if NNPC goes public with an IPO, would you put your money on it?
Depends on the price.
I mean,
Depends on the
your
price.
money,
Depends on
not
the
not
price.
not your not your
It
money on
depends.
the fringes, your core money. Would you put
It
your money
depends
on
on
it?
the price. On the price, really. That's just it. If it's at a discount, because NNPC has some good assets. Apart from they have pipelines, they have gas pipelines that we've that's a lot of money. So it's on ground. That's earnings. That's revenue. That's a beta. So at what price do they value in NPC? That's really it. They have a lot of debt. So what the numbers? When we see the numbers, we know. That's just the answer, really.
Okay, my own answer is it will depend on the audit valuation of the assets. The process for the audit and valuation of the assets will determine.
Hmm.
But I
Gotcha.
think going to the market is a net positive in any way, shape, or form you look at it, because the market will force them to comply.
Hmm. Honestly speaking, this going to the market thing is that they're trying to do an Aramco. They just need to just do what they are doing or do it better, Kelvin. Just do what they are doing better. This gas deal, if they carve out the gas side and they list the gas side, that's a money spinner. That's a money spinner, right? And then they talk something with LNG, combine those two companies. That's a global company right there. Then all those there are NIPIMS. That's on that company right there. The pipelines. That's on that company right there. I don't. Should they list NNPC as an entity? I would rather say break it down into like 8 companies. List those 8 companies. That's how I would go with it.
Kalu, breaking it into eight will be tough. Oh. To be tough.
I mean, there's pipelines, there's the NAPIMS, the technical side, there's the gas. Those are 3 major units right there that you can.
The actual bread and butter of NNPC is NEPL, exploration and production.
Okay, that's a
You know,
that's a
they
list
don't
that
get.
one.
Yeah, then the JV that
Sell that one.
the the JV that they own of on behalf of the government, the part of the JV they own for fields that are under joint venture. Under production sharing contract, NNPC doesn't get profit oil. signature and production threshold bonus that they get paid. You know, in my view, Kalu, I am of the view that the government should comply with Section 65 of the PI and translate over a period of time, create a petroleum fiscal regime where maturing or expiring lease, mining lease, will go into new fiscal terms on incorporated joint venture company model, which is what NLNG runs on, where all the parties will be required, including the government, to contribute their own side of capex. And there won't be anything like carry oil, subject to carry tax relief, section 263 of the PI, and all of that. To create more transparency and corporate governance, and also help to increase performance of those assets. Okay, so sure,
Well,
tough decisions,
yeah, we'll see.
tough
Like I
decisions.
don't see numbers that they see, so we'll know by then. This gentleman, Tobe Chiku, you've got the floor. Go for it, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Kalu. Thank you, Kelvin, for this space. I just wanted to quickly ask. So, considering the impending IPO and the unknown timeline, what when do you think is feasible? Looking at this issue of feed gas now to NLNG and to other private companies. This issue of feed gas obviously can be solved by tapping into the gas in, other regions, you know.
I like the way you're just casually saying it can be solved by tapping into the gas of other
That's
regions.
yeah, because I was listening and I was getting the info that even to have a gas well, that the government will have to be involved. So if we are waiting for the IPO before this progress, or do you think that such things, like what's the timeline for the development of the 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 gas infrastructure in the southeast, in your opinion? What's the timeline? Because this issue of feed gas now can be solved by this pipeline that goes into the southeast, you know.
Have you, my brother? Have you been on this space?
No, I came in when you were, maybe the third, maybe not long ago. But I'm very
That's fine
interested
because we've,
in,
we've
yeah.
gone we've gone we've gone we've gone through this twice now.
Oh, sorry
But
about that.
I'll just summarize. So if you check a map, if you check Kalu's handle, you see a map that he posted on the
Yeah,
diagram for gas already existing and planned proposed pipelines across Nigeria. And we've talked about the fact that a lot of the gas goes away from either the Niger Delta or the southeast, goes to other regions, coastal, the southwest, horizontal, proposed vertical plants. Um, so AKK is simply aggregating gas from the south, south, and southeast, feed to the confluence center in Ajaokuta in Kogi State, and then take on the other leg from OB3 through Benin to Ajaokuta, because Edo shares a common boundary in Edo North, Auchi, with Ajaokuta in Kogi State, and take it to Gwagwalada in Abuja, Zaria in Kaduna, Kano, Funtua, you know. And if you check that
yeah,
map,
I
you
have
also
that
see
information. Yeah,
a pipe that
just to
goes
reduce
from
the time. Yeah,
on a dotted red line that goes from Enugu on the right, goes to Biu, it goes to Makodi in Benue State, then it goes to Biu in Borno State, and Borno goes to Bauchi, you know. So we talked about the fact also that the excessive focus on gas gotten when you trap the gas you trap when you drill crude oil, which is what they call associated gas, which is anywhere around 85% of the gas that is used in Nigeria.
yeah, Mr. Kelvin. Sorry,
It's
sorry.
placed a limit. It's
Yeah,
placed a limit on
yeah,
how much gas that is available. So there's one problem. The first problem is that the legal authority to build transmission pipeline for gas sits with the federal government of Nigeria, not the states.
Okay.
Unless the federal government decide to build a pipeline in a region, the states cannot do anything about it. Number one. Number two, for you to get the gas to feed those pipes when it's built is problem number two.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, I can hear you. So why I ask this question is because I represent a company that that holds an active authorization to export uh, gas and import gas, export gas from the US and import from
What
other
kind of
international
gas? What
sources.
kind of gas? What
LNG,
kind of
natural
LNG?
gas, yes.
You
So
have to go and source for it
no,
now
no, no.
from
Why I'm saying
NNPC.
this is because I've tried, reaching out to LNG. We have gone very far, in terms of that side. And I noticed that there's now that is making sense that even the NLNG, they don't have enough uh,
Let,
feed
let me
gas.
give you an idea of how bad their problems are. So in 2020, during COVID, there's a Nigerian company called Televirus. It's run by a chap, Igo Sanomi, that used to be active in Nigeria before he relocated to Europe. He they pre-sold he pre-sold 19 cargoes of LNG to Glencore and Vitol, value of about 380 million US dollars. And then he, of course, did forward sale with NLNG for that 19 cargoes he pre-sold. So he pre-sold it with a margin, of course, and on the hope that NLNG was going to deliver based on the contract that has been signed for offtake. You know, NLNG didn't deliver because of force majeure from you know issues, COVID, pipe finalization, shortage of feedstock, and that led them to default. And Vitol and Glencore took Talavarez to court in Europe, not in Nigeria. Talavarez in turn took NLNG to court. 2021, they got a judgment in their favor. NLNG appealed. Last year, NLNG lost the appeal at the court in London, an appeal court in London. And unless they have an insurance that was paid for against liabilities that goes over the head of force measures, they have to put up the money from whatever way they want to put it up from, maybe the profits due to the partners, joint venture partners in 2024 financial year. And they'll take a hit of about nearly $400 million. So that's how deep their problems are from the fact that they don't have enough feedstock to separate and then process into LNG and all the C plus gas family of
Yeah.
gases. That's how deep their problem is.
Yeah.
So I wish you good luck. I wish you good
Yeah,
luck.
what I'll do is
But
I'll focus
I
on
don't have solution. I don't have solution to your
though
problem.
we don't have issues actually. We have strong Mexican customers that we are pushing gas to, not liquefied, you know. So we don't need a liquefaction facility. What I'm getting from this is that I shouldn't even venture as much as I was trying to into LNG because even the feed gas is a shortage. So imagine the kind of
Their problem is the feed gas, my brother. Their problem is the feed gas. Not even the problem is the feed
Gotcha.
gas. That's the problem.
All right. All right.
thank you
Let's
so
get
much.
thanks to Ben. Ben, you're up. Ben, how you doing? Thank you so much. Kevin, we'll be nearly going to clock 3 hours. I thank you so much for just hanging out and take the questions from folks that are asking. I'll soon let you go, but Ben, you've got the floor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Kelvin. I must say, this has been a very enlightening one. Kelvin is always coming heavy. Kelvin is always coming with a lot of, information that you can't even find in it, that you can't find it anywhere. So that has been really good. So I just have a couple of questions and some comments too on the future structure of NNPC. Oh, no, before that, let me just say something about a question about the states. What, Kevin? What would you say about the states going into a partnership with a private entity, whether it's through, through a trust, then from the trust they go into some type of joint venture with the private entity,
Ben,
and
Ben,
then take
Ben, we've
and then
discussed
get
this now.
permission,
Ben, we've discussed this thing now.
mhm, and then get permission from the
We've discussed
feds
this thing now. We've
to
discussed this thing.
just
Ben,
connect a
we've sort
pipeline within
we've
their
sort of we've
states
sort
that
of
will tap into
we've
one
sort of
major
talked
pipeline.
we've talked around this I think twice. So he was saying that it's not possible that they should go through FEC and all that.
I'm not removing the fact that you have to get permission from, the federal government, you know. But what I'm saying is the states can still secure that private investments first together and then go as a private entity, just like a private entity will come in to say, oh, we want to invest in a pipeline or we want to invest in developing a pipeline system. Like we want to partner with NNPC, even if NNPC will still, because they always want to have their 100% control of the pipeline, but still, in a way, the states passing through a private vehicle to make it happen for them. I feel like there's a route there that they can follow. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that before I, speak on NNPC.
Ben, I think they have to work on their model of closed loop, change to open access, also work on the network access codes. But more importantly, I don't think NGIC, NGML should be 100% responsible for pipeline infrastructure in Nigeria. I don't think so.
I also don't. I also
I
don't think
don't.
so.
I don't favor that.
I actually don't.
But the reality today is that's what we have today. That's the reality today.
They are supposed to actually just take a step back in the pipeline area and just provide security, hold some sort of minority stake, allow private
No,
people
no.
to come.
NNPC is not in charge of providing security for pipelines. And I was also in a meeting earlier this
So who
past
is the
week where
who
we're
is the
talking
federal
about.
government?
Yeah, so we're talking about this issue about fiscalization, of the entire oil and gas acreage in Nigeria and hydrocarbon accounting framework, connecting your spreadsheets for hydrocarbon accounting to first get Section 69 of the PI activated, build a GIS for all the onshore acreages, build a GIS. Because the government, beyond what NAPIMS give them, delayed data, 48-hour delayed data that they give them on daily output. You know, NAPIMS should not be telling the presidency or the Ministry of Finance or CBN or FRS how much crude oil and gas came to subsurface on a daily basis. Gas is almost constant because you get 6,000 SCOF, standard cubic feet per barrel of crude. But the amount of crude oil that comes subsurface, NAPIMS should not be telling them that.
Mm,
They should have an independent structure where you can develop a GIS, deploy a SCADA,
mm,
you meter the wellheads, you pay the about 5 to 6 companies globally that manufacture wellhead meters a $2 to $3 fee per barrel
there's so much
in
stealing
exchange for
going
their
on.
lease of those
So much
wellhead
stealing going on.
meters.
They won't want to meet it.
You put exactly you put pressure and temperature sensors on the pipes for gathering, also on the pipes of transmission, and then the SCADA connects it to real-time feed in the offices of the Minister of
Mm,
Finance, the Permanent
that's perfect.
Secretary, who is on the board of NNPC, CBN, FRS, show them real-time. So if 1.7 million barrels plus condensate comes to subsurface daily, NAPIMS should not be the one writing memo
Mm,
or report and telling them 1.7K. They will see it live.
yes,
That's how it's done in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, and other major producing countries of
I
the
agree with
world.
this.
In Malaysia, that's how it's
Yeah.
done. You shouldn't be the one telling them what MBS today,
Mm.
MBS. If you ask MBS, they will not be able to tell you, they will not be able to give you any data on the oil and gas sector in Nigeria
Uh,
because they are also relying on NNPC and the
yes,
regulator to give them
exactly,
data.
exactly. So Kevin, I think I'm clear on that. I think I'm clear on that. I wanted to ask. Has there been, when we talk about first oil, I want to be very specific on what first oil is. First oil is when you've done your initial exploration and then you started commercial production. So as at the first time you start commercial production, that is when you've achieved first oil. Has there been any of the frontier basins, has anybody anywhere in any of those basins reached first oil since 2019 or 2017 that they
Well,
commissioned?
Ben, if they've reached first oil, we'll see it on the news now. It will be recurring, like it will be going.
So
Ben,
what's
did
happening
you
to all
start
the
this
money?
space
What's happening to
about
all the money that they've invested in it now?
Ben? Is this a question for me, or is this a question for EFCC, or is it a question for? I don't know who you're asking the
These are
question
very tough questions.
because I'm not the right person. I'm not the right person to ask the question. I'm not the right person to ask the question. Earlier when we started this space, I was talking about the fact that, listen, there are different phases in this thing. Okay. And I said, the share of the profit oil that Frontier Business Exploration Fund gets, which is run by Frontier Investment Services, FIS, it's a subsidiary of NNPC. Okay. NSEV, which is a subsidiary of NNPC, does seismic and geological surveys on behalf of the group.
Okay.
So they're supposed to be like one of the EPC contractors to any frontier, this thing you're doing. You go in, you do your seismic, if there's any chance that you have hydrocarbon deposits, you go in and you do commission your what they call your exploratory drilling for exploratory
Mhm.
wells. And I mentioned earlier, I said from that exploratory drilling, you should be able to get your log, your drilling log for the well, which is what they call well log. You should be able to get proper seismic data, and you should also be able to collect samples from that exploratory drilling. Now, I just oppose this with the fact that if Shell, SNEPCO, because SPDC has sold off to Renaissance, their onshore business. SNEPCO is the offshore business for Shell now in Nigeria. If SNEPCO, before even doing exploratory drilling, they've been able to come out and tell you that, listen, we're doing Bonga North, which is part of the Bonga family, Bonga Main, Bonga Southwest, Bonga North, and Bonga Northwest. West. And based on the seismic we have on 8 wells for oil, 8 wells for water, based on the seismic data we have of exploration that is 4 to 6,000 meters below surface level, we can tell you accurately that our estimated ultimate recovery from calculating our recovery factor is 300 million barrels over 10 years.
Mm.
If before doing exploratory drilling, they've been able to give you that data and tell you that, okay, based on our analysis, right,
Mm.
on the fiscal terms and everything, we've been able to calculate that our hurdle rate for our internal rate of return is higher than the market average. Are you telling me that the company that was giving $300 million for coal mining in Bauchi and Gombe
Mm.
cannot provide you with information that will lead to them telling you that this is our recovery factor and this is how much of estimated ultimate recovery we're expecting, considering that they've started exploratory
Yeah,
drilling?
yeah, it's something
So I'm trying to draw parallels for you to see a mismatch and see
huge,
that
huge
someone is
one,
lying.
huge one. Someone is lying.
Eh?
Someone is definitely lying.
Shell has not done exploratory drilling of any well. 8 wells planned for Bonga North. I think they gave either Saipem or SLB. They've not done exploratory
And they
drilling,
already commissioned
but they've been
FID.
able
Wow,
to give
okay, now
you.
I get what you're saying.
They've commissioned
I get what
FID,
you're
but they've
saying.
been able to give you the estimated ultimate recovery and recovery
Mm.
factor and calculate hurdle rates.
Mm.
But the one where they say they've done exploratory drilling, they've not come out with any
It's a
numbers.
lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. I get the full picture. It's
Thank
a
you
big
very
lie.
much.
It's not even doesn't make any sense. So
Thank you.
my last question will be on OB3. When they commissioned the OB3, that's from Obia 4 to Obikum and then ending up in Edo State, Uben. The pipeline was initially awarded to Nest Oil and Oilserv. Nest Oil had a part to play, like a section to handle. Oilserv had a section to handle. I think Oilserv has gone, they've gone far so far with their own parts. But I think when Nest Oil got to um, the River Niger, there was a huge problem there. They tried to do horizontal directional drilling think about 1.8, 1.9 kilometers to cross the Niger River, and they failed. Now I heard again that sometime in, can't really remember, I think before COVID, or yeah, shortly before COVID, they gave it to a Chinese company, a division, a subsidiary of Sinopec, CPPEC. I think so. CPPEC, a subsidiary of Sinopec, or CNPC. Sorry, it's a subsidiary of CNPC. They also tried, and I think it ran into COVID time, and I've not heard anything so far. So I don't know. Have you heard anything on that? Is there any updates on that now, or what's going on there? Because
That's
I
where
believe that
the
that's a key
that's where
area
the
for
current
AKK, for the success of AKK. That would be that pipeline is supposed
that's
to
where the
feed
current area.
AKK.
Nothing has changed. That's where they are.
Wow, wow.
Kevin,
That's where they are.
someone asked me on DM that the pipeline between Seplat and NNPC, NGIC, is that what we're talking about? It says the gas pipeline between Seplat and NNPC, NGIC. Is that what we are talking about? Is that the OB3?
No,
So
no. OB3 is another gas
the
pipeline from River State to Edo.
so the River State to Edo, River State is feeding, yeah. Edo is also feeding. So what Ben is talking about is the connection from a section of OB3 down to the River Niger crossing to connect the pipe that is also feeding from Obigbo in River State through Maya down to Enugu to cross the River Niger and join the other side of it. That's what Ben is talking about.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting. All right.
If they're not able to solve that River Niger issue, it will negatively affect AKK. So even if AKK is finished,
Ben, my real thoughts on it, I would prefer
okay,
not to
okay,
discuss
okay, okay.
on
Yeah,
this stage.
I understand.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Interesting. We can't cross River Niger. Okay, interesting. Vese, you are back. Did you have something to add? Because we're going to round up the. Did you have something to add? Go for it.
Ye- Yes, yes. Sorry, I dropped off abruptly. Um, yes, I wanted to ask two more questions.
Two.
Or let's just, yes, two, just two. Yes, the when Kelvin has been giving his submission, I think when he did the when he juxtaposed between Nigeria and Qatar as regards our gas capabilities, and he made like a comment that like Nigeria doesn't have like a plan, doesn't have a strategy for gas. All that we've been doing is based on associated gas and all that. Understand that. So like the question now is like, does that mean that a new gas master plan is something that we can look forward to, like a brand new gas master plan, like that can sort of like take into cognizance like regions in the southeast and the south, such that gas is not just leaving those places, but those can also be centers of industry and lots of power production. First question. The second question is around, like I said, I'm from Delta, DSC, the Delta Steel Company, and all that. Now, from sort of research and all that, I think they say it's feasible to drag, like if you pipe gas to that certain location, it can sort of like jumpstart or incentivize the feasibility of steel production in that region once again. So what, I don't know, what are your, if that has come within your purview in, this oil and gas ecosystem conversations.
Ewoma,
Thank you.
Ewoma.
Yeah.
So earlier I was talking about the fact that the north has more gas than oil. That's why you
Which
see that the major operators
was
are
a
running away from it
surprise to me.
because you know, they want fields that has more oil than gas, and the fact that there's no coordinated gas strategy. Now, I like that map. I think that map that Kalu posted, has guided our conversations on pipeline infrastructure throughout space tonight. I really love that map. That map tells you the whole story. I remember someone came on. I don't know if it was Adisa or TS that came on earlier and was talking about the fact that if you look at the gas pipeline that has consistent red lines on the coastal side from the south to the southwest, you know. When I say Nigeria does not have a very comprehensive gas master plan, what I mean is this. I'll pick an example, Qatar, and I said this earlier. Qatar does not produce more than 1.2 million barrels of crude per day, net of condensates. They left OPEC in 2019. One of the reasons was because, they believe, Qatar believe OPEC is Saudi's alter ego. And Qatar and Saudi Arabia are not exactly the best of friends when it comes to alignment politically, for religious reasons also. The Qataris are Shiites, Muslims, the Saudis are Sunni Muslims, so they have a major ideological difference when it comes to religion. One side believes they're majority, one side believes the majority believes the other side is minority. You know, but OPEC basically dictates what happens in. Sorry, Saudi dictates what happens in Qatar in OPEC. In 2019, you saw Qatar leave. 2023, I think, you saw Angola leave. 2019 also, Indonesia left OPEC. Indonesia does not do more than 1 million barrels per day. Qatar does not do more than 1.2. So I want you to do some small numbers. Now, we did this earlier. I just want to repeat it for you. Every barrel of crude gives you 6,000 standard cubic feet of gas. Okay? So if you do 1.2 million barrels, yeah, times 6,000, that is 7.2 billion scoff. That's around maybe 80% of what Nigeria produces daily today. The only problem is that some of that is lost to flaring and other issues. Reinjection and flaring will take maybe 30% or 35% of that. Then the other one is taken into either willing producers, price parts, export markets, and domestic delivery gas obligations. So if Qatar is doing 7.2 billion scoff associated gas they get by um, trapping gas from producing crude, and the size of Qatari LNG, the output of Qatari LNG is 6 times the size of NLNG. Do you think there's a disconnect? And the disconnect is the fact that Qatar, the output of Qatar LNG, if you divide 7.2 billion scoff by 45,000, it gives you 160,000 metric tons per day times 365 days. It gives you 58.4 million metric tons. Okay? At full prime. The output of Qatari LNG is, I'll say, put it at anywhere around 52 to 53% associated gas and the remaining from non-associated gas. Given that there's no loss of gas to flaring or injection in Qatar. Qatar wants to increase their capacity to about 160 to 180 million metric tons per year. So it means that the Qatari government has developed non-associated gas fields over time at a commercial scale that makes crude oil drilling not important to them.
That's incredible. Sorry to cut you. That's
Drilling crude
incredible.
oil is not important to them. Have you ever heard the Qatari government come and tell you that they are bringing investors or they are investing in new fields to drill crude? It's not crude oil. To them, crude oil is of the past. It's not important. Their focus is on gas. So they get the gas. It's processed for gas goes to. I explained it earlier. Gas goes to flow stations to nodes, calibrate, goes to central processing facilities as wet, convert to lean, separate into propane. For the kind of gas Nigeria has, that has a lower viscosity and a lower density, yeah, Nigeria has more propane than butane, has more C3H8 than C4H10, propane than butane. Okay, so you export all these other separations, propane, you convert to LPG, and then you export. In other markets where they have crude oil with higher viscosity, higher density, they have more butane than propane, which is the typical kind of LPG that we use in Nigeria because of temperature and pressure. Okay? So if you don't have a gas master plan that can provide fiscal terms in your petroleum fiscal regime to give incentive to operators to invest in fields that are focused solely on gas, which the North has more of than crude. Okay? And we gave the map earlier of how, if you look at that map, you see that you had 6 basins. You have the Bida Basin, upper, lower. You have the Chad Basin. That Chad Basin can feed into Biu. If you look at that broken lines that talks about proposed and planned, Chad Basin can feed into Biu. The Komani Basin can feed into um, the pipe that goes all the way to Biu in Borno State. Komani Basin can feed into it. The Bida Basin, the upper part of the Bida Basin, can feed into AKK. And then the aggregation of all these basins will provide enough feedstock for you to build a transnational gas pipeline, TNGP, that will go all the way from Gassou or from Kano all the way through Niger Republic to Algeria to build an export pipeline to Europe, which was what they planned. But the problem remains, number one, you don't have a diplomatic relationship with Nigeria as we speak. Number two, you don't have money to commission infrastructure for an export pipeline. Number three, and most importantly, you don't have the feedstock to feed those pipes, even if you build it. So if you now come down to the south, installed capacity of NLNG, 22 million metric tons per annum, is going to 30 million tons when they finish Train 7, because Train 7 is 8 million tons. Yeah, less than 60%. They need currently 3.5 billion standard cubic feet of gas daily to achieve 100%. They only have about maybe 2.5, maybe 2.2 right now, maybe 2.1, 2.2. They were averaging about 2.5 late last year. When Train 7 finishes, they'll need 4.5, which means they'll need to double their current capacity. They don't have it. Okay? So if you can't, and if you look at that map, you see that the gas fields are mostly offshore, Delta, Bielsa, rivers. If you don't provide proper fiscal terms where NNPC is not the ultimate owner of gas offshore, and you define specifically what's in it for the operators, for them to aggregate offshore gas and pipe inland for NLNG to operate, you don't have a strategy. If you don't provide fiscal terms that will create incentives for them to drill gas offshore, only gas, not crude, you won't get feedstock to be able to do DGDO, to be able to do WPPP, to be able to put in all these pipes, OB1, OB3 to Benin, Escravos to Lagos, Wakpiko, OB3 from Benin to feed AKK, and then OB3, it goes from River State to Umuahia to Enugu, and then the other leg goes to
We haven't
Jalingo.
even started. So we
Is
haven't
way
even
cheaper.
started because
Kevin, is it not way cheaper to go from the Anambra Basin down to the NLNG and other liquefaction facilities?
Well, the Anambra Basin is the lower Benue Road.
Yeah.
The Benue Road is divided into two. It used to be Gongola. I explained it earlier. The Anambra Basin has the Onitsha, then you have the
Yeah, what I'm saying is it
Abakaliki
not cheaper to go from
belt.
there instead of using the offshore?
Look, if you don't have the Frontier Basin Exploration Fund deployed to the Anambra Basin, you can't find anything. You need to invest. This is why I'm saying you need to invest. You
Yeah,
need to
my question
deploy
is,
the Frontier Basin
yeah,
Exploration Fund to the
yeah.
places where. But the point I'm trying to make is, considering what is happening in Qatar, The North should even be thankful that if Nigerian government were serious, if these people in Abuja were serious, okay, gas in the North presents a better business case for them than crude oil.
Natural
This is what
gas
I'm
is
trying
the
to explain.
cleanest fossil fuel. It's cleaner than oil.
It's
It's
transition
cleaner
fuel.
than
Is the
yeah.
G7 leaders have agreed that natural gas is
It's
transition
the
fuel.
cleanest
It's
fossil
transition
fuel.
fuel.
Oil is
See,
cleaner than
listen to me.
coal.
Listen to
And
me.
natural, yeah.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Dangote currently has 30 million tons of installed capacity for urea. He's currently doing anywhere between 62 and 70%. Maybe I'll put it at maybe 65% capacity utilization because of gas feedstock. He doesn't have enough gas. Hmm? He wants to triple that capacity to 9 million metric tons. He needs gas feedstock. The market, as you have, the horizontal structure you have, cannot supply him gas feedstock. If Dangote achieves full capacity at 30 million tons, he's going to be returning $2.2 billion per year at current market price in FX to the Nigerian government, to the Nigerian markets. So if he takes it up to 9 million, he's going to be returning over $9 billion. Sorry, over $6 billion per year, only from urea. Just from urea. FX that comes for you to do balance of payment, over $6 billion. If you develop these gas fields and connect it to this proposed and planned gas pipeline, the rice milling industries in Kano will have gas as an alternative, cheaper power to power. The Gencos will have more supply to generate more electricity, and then you can talk about all the other issues they have. You will be able to feed a confluence to aggregate for an export pipeline. The business case for TNGP will become more visible.
Kevin, can I just
Kevin,
I
sorry,
want to
a
summarize.
question on this.
Hold on,
A
Ben. Let me
question on this, sorry.
hold on, Ben. I just want to summarize Kevin what he's saying. So, number one, you're saying that the North has got more natural gas than crude oil. If they focus on the natural
Yes, yes.
gas, it's a better investment case for them. I know you're talking about Shell and that, but if the North should focus more on extracting and utilizing that natural gas, it's a better, it's better for them. I get that. So I just want to ask, if you look at the whole gas infrastructure as a sort of like, you know how they say the critical pipeline, which is the critical investment that they can make that would sort of unlock or get this moving? Which pipeline is most critical? Like, I know real, which one is more important in that whole gas pipeline as you see? Which linkage or which line, which is it?
Kalu, um, so it's difficult to say that one is more important than the other because they all have their strategic advantages. But considering paucity of funds, if you say which one is more expedient for them to develop, I'll say that they should, develop the one that goes from River State through the southeast and then feeds into OB3 for AKK and then feeds into Enugu for you to connect to Jalingo and then from there to Bauchi. But the only caveat will be you have to redraw that engineering design and take a line to Anambra. Then in each of these states, install a pressure metering and reduction station, a PMRS, so that you can create an avenue for people to depressurize and take through distribution pipes to different parts of the region. So that will be very critical, but they have to withdraw the engineering design for
Gotcha.
that, for the two lines, one going from left and the
I
other
like
going
I,
from
I like I
the
like
right
how
to the
you laid it
northeast.
out. Yeah, I like how you laid it out. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, Kelvin, this gas EMP issue, would you say the lack of pipeline infrastructure is the biggest reason why whether it's NURP, NUPRC or federal government is unable to incentivize the IOCs or the investors to commission FIDs for gas fields so that gas output can
No, no,
increase? What
no.
is the main issue?
The infrastructure is not the issue. I said earlier that look, you don't need. Problem is not invest the capital to invest. The problem is the lack of feedstock for gas. Power has different problems. The lack of feedstock for gas.
Okay, feedstock is a function of
Without
investment.
gas, without gas feedstock, nobody is going to commission a FID for them to invest in infrastructure because they need to sign a gas supply and purchase
So when
agreement
I was talking about FIDs,
to GSK
I was talking about gas
as a
fields,
precondition.
not the pipelines. I was talking about gas fields to generate feedstock.
I- the feedstock, like I've explained. I said that listen, there's too much focus on associated gas that is attached to drilling crude,
Mhm.
and there's not enough of it. Okay,
Mm.
because there is like constraint and challenges with the output for crude, net of condensates today, natural gas liquids and the rest of them. There's a limit. So until you increase how much crude you're drilling, you can't increase how much gas you get. For you to change that equation, you have to move from your excessive focus on associated gas to
To
non-associated
energy,
gas.
basically. And there are energy fields. There are fields that are only energy.
What's the commercial case today for people putting their money in fields that solely produces gas?
Hmm. That's a pickle. That's a pickle.
Very
So how
interesting.
is Qatar doing it? How is Qatar doing it?
Very, very interesting.
Because Qatar has a master plan that focuses on gas more than it focuses on oil. So,
Okay, but
you get
again,
gas.
So they
sorry,
are
just
taking a bet. They are taking a bet that Nigeria, that the IOCs or whoever are
sorry,
not
It's,
sorry,
willing
it's,
sorry,
to
it's
Ben.
not a
invest.
bet. It's not
Ben,
a
let's
bet. It's not a
What
bet.
about Ibe
Qatar
Kajuku's
signed.
Ben,
gas
Ben,
master
Signed.
plan?
Ben, please, I want let's so he can answer because you are rapid firing. Just just take so um Kev, just to be clear again, you are saying Nigeria doesn't have a gas plan for the non-associated gas. We don't have any plan today as we speak.
They're being fled.
Kalu, there's no
How
plan. You can download the National Gas Master
no,
Plan
but
of 2017.
how
It's
is this
publicly available,
possible? How
and read it.
how how is this possible?
There's no,
How
there's
is this
no
possible?
the plan. Well, Kalu, you can see why I've been shouting. You can see why I've been shouting because you can't. We have a country that says it's serious about oil and gas and as a means to generate revenue to fund projects and all of that. If you don't have a plan, you don't have a plan for gas. The world is moving, and there is so much focus on crude that you can't even increase output for. The gas that you have, because in fact, Nigeria has proven reserves. 53% of the proven reserves of 210 trillion cubic feet of proven reserves of natural gas is actually non-associated, not associated.
Okay, this is news to me. Yeah.
What what is the plan? What is the plan for moving from potential trapped under the ground to coming to surface, and then providing infrastructure to moving from surface, the field, to flow stations, to the nodes, to central processing facilities, and take it from there? What's the
Okay.
plan? That's the gap that exists. That's what Qatar and Australia
Today.
have been able to, Algeria have been able to solve, that Nigeria does not have a plan
All
for.
right. Kevin,
Sorry, Kevin. Let me just ask you a follow up question. Sorry, let me just ask you a follow up question. Is it possible for? I know it's possible, but can't the federal go? Is there not somebody in the federal government or in governance that can incentivize those that know, the white guys, the IOCs, the experienced oil and gas big six, incentivize them to come and invest in these energy fields to generate feedstock that we can use for power, for everything that we need? Because based on everything you said here, I don't know if some people on this space are understanding. This gas plan is a very key aspect of Nigeria's economic growth. If we can fix it, already we are talking about bringing down electricity costs because gas, like he said, is 75% to 80% of power generation or the power that's generated in this country. So is there something we can do to incentivize the investment, to investigate, incentivize the people that know how to do this thing to come and do it? and then we can now learn from them. Because even the oil, that's how oil
So
started. We didn't know how to do it.
so so I'll tell you what. I said this earlier, and Ben, I'm not going to go over the answer to this question again for you. I will not. Um, you see, offshore, where you have more gas reserves, proven reserves of gas than onshore, NNPC has an ultimate status model currently, which means that all the gas gotten offshore belongs to NNPC. Like it belongs to the JV partners, the PSC partner, but with an ultimate approval from NNPC. That's what you have today.
You've answered the question
So
already.
one of
You've answered the
one
question.
of one of the cases for Bonga North, for example, is that at peak production they'll be doing 110,000 barrels per day. If you do your numbers, 110 times 6,000, that's 660 million scoff of gas. So you have JV partners, SO is there, Total is there, Shell is there. I think Eni is there. Eni and Shell and Total are major shareholders in NLNG, along with the federal government that NNPC is a beneficial owner for on behalf of FGN. So what they will do typically is just ESO will give a right of first refusal to these other companies that belong to NLNG to take the gas that belongs to ESO, but NNPC has to approve of that under a PSC framework. So the oil, yes, but the gas, that framework, that status has to change, number one.
Mm,
Okay?
mm,
If offshore, NNPC owns 60%, the JV partner owns 40%, PSC, of course, they are taking the risk, they pay signature bonus, production threshold
mm.
bonus, and all the likes.
Yeah,
Eh?
bonuses are real.
The sharing of gas also has to fall along this line.
Mm,
If I'm doing, for example, Bonga North is not JV, it's PSC.
mm,
If I'm doing 660 million scoff of gas, and we're doing 60-40 on oil, for example, if it was a
mm,
JV, if I'm doing 110,000 barrels, you're collecting 60% of that. On gas, we're doing 660 million scoff. We should also share 60-40.
mm.
Do you
Yeah.
understand? Beyond this, you also need to give them incentives to be able to explore.
Mm,
Because all of this depends on, these decisions are not emotional. The operators don't care about your patriotism,
I got
nationalism,
you.
the goals of
Okay,
Nigeria. They
Kevin.
don't care about that.
Kevin, let's
They
just
are
what,
businesses. If
sorry about that.
I know we have to round off. If the numbers don't make
mm,
sense, if your commercial framework based on your fiscal terms for your fiscal modeling regime, it doesn't enable them to make profit and reduce their risk,
mm,
they will not put their money down. And just so you know, gas was not a thing for the American companies until maybe 15 years ago when they started Shell. Gas was not a thing. America practically came from nowhere in LNG. They came from nowhere. Europe had always owned the LNG market.
yeah.
Europe, the Middle East. America came from nowhere. Today, they have the largest share of the LNG market in the world. They came from nowhere.
Well,
And from Obama to Trump's first term to Biden and then Trump's second term, the energy strategy has been consistent. And you can see the results. They came from nowhere.
mm.
Chevron and ExxonMobil
Exxon,
today,
yes.
as I speak to you, they don't want to sell their gas to NLNG.
Wow.
In fact, what they want is they want to rent the infrastructure of NLNG, liquefy the gas
Mm, mhm,
that they get from their oil activities
mm,
into LNG, separate all of that, and then pay a fee to NLNG, which is not what NLNG operates, the model they run on.
mm,
So instead, Chevron, for example, there's the largest shareholder in West African gas pipeline company, who prefer to pipe his gas through that Escravos pipe
mm.
to the southwest, that coastal pipe, sell to off-takers in Lagos, and then export the remaining to West African coast.
Okay, it makes more sense for them. It makes more sense for them.
It makes more sense. So why would you think Chevron would want to invest in installed capacity for LNG in Nigeria when they can see what is happening to Shell, Total, and Eni?
The three shareholders in LNG.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Kevin, I had a few
Thank you very
questions
much.
for them. We'll close. So someone's asking about this floating UTM floating liquid natural gas platform. If you have any update on that, the UTM floating liquid.
I I don't have any update because FLNG is um, the capex is low, the opex is
Uh,
high, and I don't know if you signed the GSPA. GSPA is the problem because the people he's trying to sign it from are also looking at how to feed their own installed LNG
mm.
facilities. The same operators is trying to sign GSPA to collect gas from are the same people who need gas. So to be honest with you, I don't know how UTM wants to succeed without actually going upstream to collect, to drill the crude and recover the gas by themselves. I don't know.
Gotcha. Okay. Lastly, it's just
Yeah.
going to be on the Kaduna refinery. Just to clarify a few things on the Kaduna refinery. If you think long term, that's a vibe. I mean,
Mm.
the other refineries are in the south. This is in the north. Just long term, what's your take on that? If it doesn't get, what's your take on? Let's just leave it as an open question. What's your take?
Okay, so Kalu, there's a 674-kilometer pipe from Escravos to Kaduna. Um, it goes from Delta State, Escravos, through the Chanomi Creeks. It goes to um, Auchi. It goes to Niger State. Then it goes to Kaduna. Kaduna has two CDUs, CDU1, CDU2, 50, 60,000. One can take Nigerian crude. The other one cannot take Nigerian crude. The other one takes foreign crude. I think it was built with the Venezuelan crude blend in mind, which has a higher density and higher viscosity. Nigerian crude has a lower density, lower viscosity, and the API degree is higher. So the question is, where will you get the foreign crude? And then if you get the foreign crude, you import the foreign crude into Nigeria at what cost? How do you transport it? With what pipes? Are you going to truck it? Are you going to barge it? If you're going to barge it, how are you going to dredge those inland water channels? Considering that NIWA does not have a budget that is functional to open the road for the barges to go all the way from the port, maybe on airport, in through to Kaduna. That's the number one question. If you're going to truck it, at what cost are you going to truck it? How do you achieve positive cracking margin? So both for the Nigerian crude and the foreign crude, how does the crude get there?
So
You
with
know.
that, with
So I'll go back, Carlo, I'll go back to 2006 as I round off on this. I'll go back to 2006. 2006, CMPC bidded um, a consortium that was formed between Alhaji Aliko Dangote, Femi Otedola, Blue Star. They also bidded. Dangote and Otedola won Port Harcourt Refinery. I think they bidded somewhere around $600 million. They won it. CMPC bidded for Kaduna. They bidded $100 million. They won it. And then I think, okay, the 600 million was both for Port Harcourt and Warri, if I'm not mistaken. They won it. Some people went to OBJ and told him that, that money is too low for Kaduna Refinery, that he should increase it to about 143 or 145 million. CMPC said they are not going to increase it because they already won the bid. The agreement
mm,
is agreement. So what their plan was we're going to retrofit that CDU2 that takes foreign grade of crude, you know, and then they will build an export pipeline from Niger Republic, the Agadem fields in Niger, where they currently take out about 110,000 barrels through to Seme border through an export pipeline they built. outside Nigeria, by the way, and supply crude from Niger Republic to Kaduna instead of from Niger Delta to Kaduna because of the fact that when they did the analysis, the security risk of operating those pipes were higher, taking crude from, as at then, from the Niger Delta to Kaduna than it was from Niger Republic to Kaduna. But of course, Nigeria being Nigeria, CMPC sale was revoked, Blue Star sale was revoked, Umia came in 2007, they were revoked. So CMPC just went to Niger. They, got an agreement with the government that they were going to explore for crude, produce, and then recover their money through cost oil over a period of years. And they were going to use some of the feedstock they get from their garden fields to feed a refinery they will build in Niger Republic. And then the difference of what they don't feed the refinery they were going to take out after cost oil is fully paid in a JV with the government. So what you have in Niger Republic where, people practically are not able to get refined petroleum products is the new military junta going back on that agreement. Chased the Chinese out, refinery was shut down, fields are not operating, maybe they abandoned their rigs, the pipeline is not functional. Because you're not only recovering cost oil for developing those fields, you're also recovering money for building that 1,950 kilometer pipe from Magadem to Semen, Benin Republic. So Kaduna today, based on my assessment, is not a going concern. It's a waste of money, and we should stop bringing it through religious and tribal connotations. Doesn't make any sense in the world because there's no crude oil anywhere around the Bauchi, Gombe, Komani. There's no crude oil anywhere around the Bida Basin to easily supply feedstock to Kaduna, even if it was working. Number one problem. Number two, if Kaduna, they say Kaduna comes back, for example, the CDU starts functioning, do you actually have a catalytic reforming unit to convert naphtha after you do hydrotreating of the naphtha into higher distillates like PMS and recover LPG? Do you have it? The answer is no. So you basically are going to have the situation where you had in Warri and Port Harcourt where they were blending naphtha condensates with C5 to produce what they call PMS, but it's not PMS. It burns quickly and it's not good for engine because the octane level is low, the sulfur level is very high. It's blended. It's not PMS. It's like, I don't know, there are people in this space that, in Niger Delta, and stay in some of the states in Niger Delta, and you know very well that there are filling stations in the Niger Delta, especially in Bayelsa and Delta State, where some of the petrol they sell is actually bunkered petrol, not petrol that is under regulation by the Nigerian government. They will agree with me that this is a reality today in some states in Niger Delta.
I agree with you. I agree with
And
you.
the one thing you will notice about that petrol is that it burns very quickly. Why? Because it didn't pass through standard distillation and it doesn't meet up with regulatory standards. So I don't know the basis on
Very
which
interesting.
Ojulare, I don't know the basis on which Ojulare will commission his EVP downstream to, start doing macho, do pictures, go to Kaduna and say Ketco, they're going to bring it back to life. It doesn't make any commercial sense. The best line of action is sell all the government-owned refineries and call it a day because it's a loss-making and it's a bloody waste of everybody's time.
But what
I
what
agree with this. I agree with this.
what necessitated? Just I totally agree with you. But let's just go back. What was the thinking? Why did we have to build it with foreign inputs?
It was politics.
Kalu, that,
Okay, let's
you know,
leave that one. Okay, okay, Kevin, let's
Kalu is just like you asking what was the business case for building a commercial refinery in Kaduna when you don't have a state within the northwest and the northeast producing crude oil? Federal character. Anything is doing in Nigeria, regardless of what the numbers say, if you do it in the south and if you don't do it in the north, or if you do it in the north and you don't do it in the south, a group will start agitating that
It's not legal. Yeah, it's not
tribalism
legal.
and
And again, Trump.
it's not that, it doesn't meet federal character principles, there's cheating. It's the country we're in. So, for example, Ben asked, was it Ben that asked a question? Someone asked me a question. It was a woman that asked me a question, and I'll round off with this. He asked me about Delta Steel Company, and if you have gas, if Delta Steel Company can be revived. Kalu, you've done a lot of extensive work on iron ore, and you agree with me that the grade of iron ore in Nigeria is a problem
Yeah,
for New
we
York.
have low quality
Number one.
iron ore.
Exactly. Number two, the decision to site a steel plant in Ajaokuta was a
Mm-hmm.
political decision. So it was not a
Mm-hmm.
commercial decision. The reason is very simple. There were 10 ports, inland ports designated to be built around the inland waterways. 10. One was supposed to be sited in Kogi State, close to Ajaokuta. In the absence of no functional inland port in Ajaokuta, there is no commercial sense in locating a steel plant inland in Ajaokuta, considering you don't have high-grade iron ore to beneficiate into
We've said
steel
that.
by Nyamko.
And Kevin, people need to understand that when Ajakuta was built, there was no Delta state. The port was supposed to be in that delta. Then they moved the limestone, the ore, Via River, not even Via River. It's too heavy, just too heavy. And once you put it on, you can't put it off. I don't know what happened to Ajakuta. The Russians did us 419, but we continue to pay. I don't know what way they did us juju. I'm not really sure what happened to that job. There was a big mistake Nigeria made. It wasn't corruption. That's the funny thing. It wasn't corruption. It wasn't as if they bribed some people or people chopped money. Just project management. We just took our eyes off the ball and sunk cost fallacy came in. We said we have already spent 5 billion. Sorry, let's continue because we already spent money. Let's not let this thing waste. And that's the problem. It's unfortunate. Kevin, I don't know how we can thank you, man. I mean, you 3 hours lecture taking us through oil and gas refinery. Now we want to try to end up in iron. I'm so technical, so database. It's just a pleasure to have you on here. I know everybody has been sending me DMs. We're just listening to you, just to understand what's going on. We're a bit shocked. We have no gas master plan. I didn't expect that. I thought we have all these things already done, and it's been on that issue. Maybe we have an issue with the pricing and all that. But we hear things that are just mind blowing. Now I understand why power is expensive in Nigeria. I get why. I understand this associated gas thing you guys talk about. Now it makes sense to me. We have a long way to go. If on a space like this, we're not government people, we can say these things, distill it, and sort of know where the solutions are. What is the government doing? 24 months in, where are the policies? Even if it's a policy, get the policy out. Then we can talk around, okay, are the policies good, but get the policy out. Next year to be elections. From next year, everything will be elections. No more long term. Then we'll start the next, I don't know. Let's just so Kevin, just want to thank you and all the guys that have been hanging around here to ask questions. It's been a pleasure for you guys to contribute to the
Thank you.
space, and we've all learned, I think, together. We'll be here next week. I want to bring an economist next week just to sort of ask him about where Nigeria is on the macro level.
Carlo, before Kevin go, can we talk about books? Kelvin, please, my question. Are
He,
you
sh-
going to
he
write a
should.
book, Kelvin? Or do you want to take all these things away and go one day to God?
Sorry, Kelvin, can you do the
Please,
master
can you
plan for
do?
Nigeria? The gas master
Will you
plan.
pay
We
him?
need we
Yes,
need
yes.
Kelvin.
So
We
Kevin,
need
Kevin,
that
to
guy is
start a
talking about.
campaign for
Kevin should do
Kelvin.
master
Kevin, can
plan
you
for.
write it? Kevin, can
You
you
guys
write a
serious?
book?
Wait.
Can you write a book that will look 100 years into the
You guys are
future
not
for Nigeria?
serious. You guys are not
100 years.
serious.
If you want us to contribute
They're
money,
not
no, no,
serious.
Carlo, let me make this first. If you want us to
Contribute how
contribute
much? You
money,
should write a
work with Kano,
policy,
we will
gas
Kelvin
contribute
for
policy
money.
president.
that they pay Slumbeja
No, 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 no,
Please,
Ben, we are not getting
$5 million to
there.
write.
please,
Kevin should write it.
I beg, please, if we should not, I beg, I don't have plans to run for government office. Don't put me in trouble,
No, you can't.
please.
No, 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 no. I'm not talking about. I'm just talking about just putting out maybe 50 years plan. Just publish. Just write a book on
No,
it.
I don't think.
We can put
I don't
resources
think.
together to support
I
that.
don't think
Carl,
in the
what do you
book. I think
think?
he just needs to write his
I'm
thoughts
interested.
around this stuff. Write a few things that can guide non-oil people, so we can understand what this gas policy means, what the pipelines means. Just if you write it in a way that people can understand, oh, this is why this we don't have gas in the east. Oh, this is why Jakarta is not working. I think it makes sense. It doesn't have to be a business plan with technical language. Just to explain these things the way you've done here to non-oil people. I think it will benefit a lot. People can then have that information and put more pressure on their lawmakers and all that. That's what I think maybe Kevin should do, right? And I think it's something like a 10 paper, a technical paper, but the English should be very, very easy with lots of pictures.
Yeah, let's
I
I
think it's a
forget.
benefit picture.
Mr. Kelvin, do you do like private consultations and things because
Yeah, you go through me.
yeah,
You pay 10%.
because in the future when the gas because people don't understand that gas runs the world literally. Natural gas runs this world. The Japanese, they don't have any gas reserve, but their companies are the largest in terms of natural gas. You know.
Interesting.
So I please I'm followed you, and one of these days, by the grace of God, when the gas infrastructure in Nigeria is mature, that is that is gonna blow up industrialization in Nigeria
True.
and around. Yeah, thank you very
True.
much.
Kevin, any closing words?
The- Kalu, I was just going to say in closing that the Korean National Petroleum Corporation (KNPC) actually wanted to invest in two fields off the coast of Badagry in Lagos. They were frustrated out of Nigeria,
Hey,
you know,
what?
and I think there's a current legal tussle over two blocks, OPL. I can't remember the block numbers. In closing, Carlo, I want to thank you always because and I'm not trying to patronize you, but I'll tell you that of all the spaces on Twitter in Nigeria, your space is one of the most value-adding spaces on Twitter in Nigeria.
Thank you, sir.
And it's always so fantastic how you host, a fantastic host, and the consistency is amazing. Every time when I think about the fact that you do this on a every Sunday, you do it every Sunday without fail. Consistent is some. It's good to start something, but the consistency over the years is amazing. It's amazing. So I want to thank you. It's one thing for you to have a guest, it's another thing for you to have a fantastic host that will moderate and then bring out all the juices. I want to thank you for the privilege of always having
Thank you,
me.
sir.
And I also want to thank everybody who has joined the spaces. And I also want to say that, the Nigerian government has to smell the coffee. You know, it's not looking very good for 2025. It's not looking good at
If
all.
oil goes, so the scenario is that if if Iran makes a deal with the US, oil prices fall, we're in trouble.
Yeah. Well, the market is already showing as soon as they put the prospect, the small prospect at all of Iran doing a deal with the US, oil prices turning back down. I think there's a glut from between OPEC and OPEC Plus. There's already a glut, and the prospects of going back above $75, we might not see it anytime soon until at least Q3 or Q4. I don't see it happening
The
anytime soon.
2025 budget, like you
So
said, is gone already.
it's that budget
And we
is in the
have we
gutter.
have 2024 budget that we're already running, that was already in the gutter. So we have
You know,
2024 gone,
so
2025 gone. Mm.
I don't, I don't know why the president has not declared like a
Austerity.
crisis,
I
like a
I I,
crisis
I
in his
started
cabinet.
an austerity
Yeah,
budget, but they haven't done it.
uh, and they're always traveling. And there's a problem at home. You're always traveling. I don't know why you're traveling. I don't know why they're traveling. There's a problem at home. There's a crisis. Your budget is in peril. Why are you traveling? There's a problem. So It's unfortunate. Unfortunate. I pity all the people who depend on government expenditure to survive. Contractors are crying in Abuja, serious cry, you know, because they are being owed, they can be paid. They are, in fact, they are at the bottom of the list for people who will collect money from government, or the people whose salaries, government is trying to pay salaries, but the people's welfare depends on the government who might be imperiled by the fiscal situation. I feel sorry for them. But it's time for them to smell the coffee because this government, like we run it, is not sustainable.
Well, on that note, Kelvin, let's hope that someone hears and they're able to pull back the spending. Is it spending? Redo the budget, get more realistic, put a $40 benchmark rate there. That would reduce the deficit.
Kalu, you can't even put a $40 because the unit cost of
If
ours is
they put if they
$100.
put $40, they have to stop the borrowing because what's going on, like the World Bank is saying, they are overstating revenues. We didn't allow them to borrow more. They have to stop the borrowing and the
Uh,
spending. That's the problem.
maybe it's time for the SGF to forward the Orasanye report to
That
the
one is
president's
not going
table
to
so that he
happen.
can approve for them to start implementing it.
That's not gonna. This, if they talk around, but that no one's gonna cut costs. There's too much. Elections are coming. They have to spend money for elections. That's why they're doing one party state to have an election
Yeah,
without an election. That's the way to
because
reduce
this
costs.
yeah,
Okay.
because this is a recorded space. Just to clarify, in what I said about Japan, to give context, in 2020, their domestic natural gas production that they used was just 2.5% of the natural gas they consumed in 2020. So they imported the other 85 percent. Abi?
Gotcha.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
folks.
so
Thank you
yeah.
so much for hanging out with us. Thank you to Pound Pay for sponsoring. We'll be here next week, guys. Again, guys, try to get those books on finance, Bloomberg, podcasts, YouTube. Read about money, understand money, so you become a better investor. You can easily follow what we do here. Our job here is to educate and to inform, so that we can be better. Be better citizens and all that. I'll see you guys next week, guys. Don't forget my book on Amazon. Let's talk about your money and personal finance. And I hope you guys will join me next week. I have an economist here. We'll have ask them more detailed questions on the macroeconomic picture of Nigeria. I think it would also help everyone as well. So, guys.